now, 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis with you live from Prairie Band Sportsbook at Prairie Band Casino and Resort in Mayetta. We are here throughout the show today, getting you ready for the start of the NCAA tournament. We will be here all the way up until 6 o'clock, so come swing on by just about 20 minutes north of the capital city, up 75 Highway in Mayetta. Get off on 150th Road, drive right on over. If you haven't been to the sports book before, all you have to do, walk right in the main lobby, look forward to your right. We are right here. It even says Prairie Band Sportsbook on the door. We will be here again all afternoon. Can't wait to see you. All sorts of awesome promotions they've got going on here at Prairie Band today. Parlay your way promotion with a qualifying bet, $5 parlay, 4 legs. That's it. You are entered to win tickets to go see Inter Miami versus Sporting Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium, plus up to a $500 free bet. All you have to do, by the way, to get a free bet today, $10 free bet for the first 25 people who come in the doors of the sportsbook during the show. You just walk over to the counter, say, I've got the code, parlay your way, boom, $10 free bet for you here at Prairie Band.
It even rhymes. Like, it's really hard to forget. It even rhymes. Parlay your way, $10 free bet, and you can do with that whatever your heart desires.
It's like a built-in mnemonic device. It is extremely easy to remember. All sorts of awesome watch party packages for the men's college basketball national tournament coming up starting this week as well, including the opening 4 play-in games tonight. We'll be talking all about it throughout the show. We're going to have some folks from here at Prairie Band joining us a little bit later on today as well. Spencer's looking at the sheet for today. In fact, what's catching your eye?
Long Beach State plus 2,000 on the money line.
You love the beach.
Or just hate Arizona.
I mean, it's partially, but it's the story here. It's like you don't fire your head coach before you've played every single one of your games unless you're going to fire them midway through the year. Like, that's okay. But when you're so close to the end of the year, just wait for them to finish the darn games. So, their coach gets fired at Long Beach State. He continues to coach through the rest of the conference tournament. Well, he wins the conference tournament. He's going to the NCAA tournament, and they're plus 2,000 here at Prairie Band Sportsbook. Put $5 on there. That's a nice, I think close to 100.
Yeah, be $100.
$100.
Nice little sprinkle on that. So we've got all the sheets right here. If you don't want to bet on college basketball, we've got NHL daily odds, NHL futures. We've got NASCAR futures. I know some of you are big fans of that. NBA odds, so much to get to. NFL futures, some golf. I know Dan's been looking at the PGA futures sheet over there for quite a bit now.
You know it.
So come on by at Prairie Band Sportsbook just north of the capital city in Mayetta. And again, first 25 people who are here today, walk up to the counter, say, I've got the code. It's parlay your way. You get a $10 free bet. Coming up here on the show today, we're going to get into the Kansas City Chiefs here in just a moment. A little choose your own adventure with what they're going to do with L'Jarius Sneed going forward. Plus, one website has some very intriguing thoughts for who the next backup quarterback for Patrick Mahomes is going to end up being. We'll get you an NIT preview today as well. K-State versus Iowa. K-State is a 5.5-point dog. I know that they're on the road. I know that they've had iffy vibes, to say the least, for the last month or so. But I've got some numbers that indicate K-State should maybe be favored in this game. We might have a wrong team favored situation in the NIT tonight in Iowa City. So we'll get to that in this first hour. We'll talk plenty of college basketball in the 3 o'clock hour as well. Hunter Dickinson and Kevin McCullar, are they going to play? And who does KU need more in the opening round against Samford coming up on Thursday night? We'll talk about that. Michael Swain is going to join us in the 4 o'clock hour for Jayhawk Weekly on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. We've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today. We'll talk some bracket math, bracket science. How are you picking your NCAA tournament bracket? We'll get to that in the 4 o'clock hour. We will have Random Question Tuesday. What is wrong with you? All that coming up today on 580 Sports Talk. We would love for you to be a part of the show. Find us on YouTube. Head to youtube.com. Search 580 Sports Talk. Subscribe to our channel while you're there. A couple more people subscribed yesterday. Appreciate you guys. And you can hang out in the comment section and on the live stream with us throughout the day. Additionally, you can hit us up on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. From construction sites to renovations, from the farm to the garage, Top City Metal Supply understands the value of precision and cost efficiency. No more wasted materials, no more wasted money. Metal cut to the exact size you need. Top City Metal Supply, located on South Topeka Boulevard, back home in the capital city. But before we get to some of the college basketball today, I did want to start with a little Kansas City Chiefs info news rumor mill here. L'Jarius Sneed, we still don't know what exactly is going on, aside from apparently the Colts are out. They seemed like one of the number one contenders to go out and make a deal for L'Jarius Sneed. Sounds like that's over, according to Diana Rossini, Adam Schefter.
Adam Schefter, yes, on Pat McAfee, and said that in the exact words that they've never even discussed a deal.
Yep. Heard
that's interesting. That was true. There were a lot of people say, yeah, there were some talks. There was some moment towards something. Now that moment is gone.
So they're out. It is certainly with Matt Verderame on yesterday's show. The Chiefs could keep L'Jarius Sneed on the tag. Pretty much poo-pooed the idea that he's going to get a long-term extension, and I don't disagree with that at all. If there's a legitimate worry about his knee, and the Chiefs this offseason are more than willing to make a move and send him off somewhere else, I don't know why they would suddenly plan to extend the guy, even though he has a good relationship with Steve Spagnuolo. So what are the plans then for the rest of this offseason, depending on what they do? Let's assume nobody bites. Nobody wants to move a third and a sixth or whatever, and no one wants to give a long-term contract to L'Jarius Sneed this offseason.
Because it isn't just the third and the sixth.
Yep.
It's a third and a sixth and apparently a market-setting deal at the cornerback position for L'Jarius Sneed.
40, 50 million guaranteed. That is all a part of this. So let's say no one else wants to do that. The Colts don't get back into this. The Packers aren't interested. The Lions say, nah, we're good. We're going to keep our picks, whatever it ends up being. What's next for the Chiefs offseason, knowing that? How much do things change? Or at least what do you think the path forward would be if the Chiefs know, hey, at least for this one more season, and finality with this one more season of knowing we have McDuffie and Sneed as our two starting cornerbacks?
I think that there's a lot of value that the Chiefs could get out of that scenario and feel like they go into next season, okay, we're running it back. That there's a lot of confidence in that. There's a lot of value, I think, to that in the locker room, in just an intangible sense, to feel like, okay, we are running it all the way back on defense. Like, if Sneed were to return, who is the player who is the biggest loss from last year's defense? Willie Gay? And
probably
he was your third linebacker.
Yeah.
Maybe your fourth moving forward if Leo Chanel had jumped him on the depth chart.
Yeah, I mean, the way the Super Bowl went, I think he was clearly number 4.
Mike Edwards, who was a rotational guy before Brian Cook's injury, like, you would be maintaining the most vital parts, all of the most vital parts of a championship-winning defense, and not just a championship-winning defense, an elite-level defense, a defense that performed all year long at an elite level, a championship level. There's a lot of value to doing that, and I think that the Chiefs would certainly enter the next season as, I think they're going to enter as favorites anyway, but I think they'd enter as bigger favorites, and I think they'd enter as a team with just a little bit more swagger in their step if they were able to bring back a guy the caliber of L'Jarius Sneed. But it does move you closer to not being able to return anything of value for Sneed. This is the time this is why the old adage from the Patriots was, get rid of the player a year too early rather than a year too late. Because if you get rid of the player a year too early, you're able to recoup a little bit of value. You go get that second day pick, and the Chiefs have been terrific picking on the second day. 2 of their 3 best players, 2 of their 3 future Hall of Famers were second-day draft picks. If you think about it that way. You think about the guys they have right now, guys who they're not all Brett Veach picks, but they're Andy Reid era picks, right? 2 of their 3, no doubt, future Hall of Famers. I know that's a little bit more of a limb to go out on with Chris Jones than it is with Travis Kelce, but I feel comfortable doing it.
Sure.
I'm going to do it.
I mean, there's been enough momentum from the media world in this past couple of months to indicate that it's almost going to happen for certain at this point.
Chris Jones, 2nd round pick, Travis Kelce, 3rd round pick. So if you're the Chiefs, you value those second day picks, and you found L'Jarius Sneed with a 3rd day pick. If that's what you're able to return for L'Jarius Sneed, I still think that probably makes the most sense, but I also don't think it's a coincidence that some of the moves they made yesterday give them maneuverability under the salary cap, even if Sneed plays on the tag. I think they are willing to live with either outcome, but I have been consistent in saying it feels like their preferred outcome is a L'Jarius Sneed trade.
I will say real quick, just regarding 2nd and 3rd round picks, it's incredible how many hits the Chiefs have on day 2 of the draft. Going back to the start of the Brett Veach era, Derek Nottie, who's last year is probably his worst year, but he's been a good player, and he's coming back again for another season.
When he was hurt, too, at the end of the year.
Yeah, and he missed a lot of time at the end of the year. They also drafted Breland Speaks in the second round. We know how badly that went. McCole Hardman was at least useful on a couple Super Bowl teams. Juan Thornhill, multi-year starter. Willie Gay, useful player. Lucas Niang, a bust. But then the next year, Nick Bolton and Creed Humphrey were both second-round picks. Those guys are pretty darn good. Then you go to last year or 2 years ago, the draft, when you got Brian Cook and Leo Chanel in rounds 2 and 3. Also Sky Moore, but if you get 2 starters with 3 picks and 1 other bust, yeah, you're doing pretty well. Last year, maybe you're starting left tackle going forward in Wanye Morris and your number 1 wide receiver in Rashee Rice. Those are all day 2 picks. They've done an incredible job on day 2 of the draft. So I'm curious then, Spencer, if Sneed does stay around, how does that affect and how does that change what the plan is off-season-wise? Because Dan's right. I mean, maybe that means if you wanted to bring back 2 or 3 more guys, you're left with, well, we have to choose between Mike Edwards or,
Mike Dana,
someone else. You've got to mix and match a little bit. You got to change it. Do you think it changes the approach for building the secondary at all, though? Because we've talked about how, you either needed a new starting corner because you had to replace Sneed, or at the very least, you needed depth. Knowing you only have him for maximum 1 more year, how much does that change the back end of the defense and your plan for it?
I mean, I don't think it really does because I think they're going to draft somebody like they always do in the draft, whether it's mid or late round. I mean, you saw a guy who's got some potential who's coming back. He had a great camp last year in Najee Johnson who could do something, and you could get another guy similar
maybe he's
to
the
him that way. And, we talked yesterday about with Matt Verderame. He spoke on, probably bringing back Dana, excuse me. And, obviously you need more depth there at the or the defensive line because you can never use enough. It was used throughout the season with all the injuries that they had. But I think that they're going to build through the draft now and probably play on the tag. And, this seems like a wild card thing here and probably a weird thing for a team that competes every year. But maybe you trade him to an NFC team halfway through the season before the trade deadline.
Yeah, I mean, that is certainly possible if you feel like you've got the guys to end up replacing him. I wouldn't think that's likely, but
a wild card,
possible.
A wild card thing that could come down the line.
No, that's certainly possible. If you could only bring back one of those guys, who would it be? If you're talking Dana or Edwards or one of these
Dana.
other.
Yeah,
Dana?
Absolutely. You never have too many pass rushers.
True.
I've probably said that on this radio program north of 100 times. You never have too many pass rushers, and Dana's versatility as a pass rusher is really valuable. He can give you something on the outside. He can give you something if you kick him inside. I think that's a player that is really low-key valuable. He's not going to put up the big numbers. He's not going to, be an all-pro or a Pro Bowl or anything like that. But that's a really useful, chess piece to have when you're putting together a defensive line, somebody who can go inside and outside and be impactful wherever you line him up. I'm really baffled he hasn't ended up somewhere else.
Me too.
And I'm wondering if maybe his preference is to stay in Kansas City. And if the Chiefs have told his people, hey, we'll make you whole. We'll take care of you. Just bear with us. And maybe the preference is stay in Kansas City, stay with the organization that gave him a chance, stay with the team that's won back-to-back Super Bowls, and have a chance to be part of the same history that everybody else wants to be a part of.
I think, too, Verderame talked about the contract that he wanted. And was it Verderame, or am I getting confused with what Schefter said on McAfee?
I think, are we talking about Sneed or Dana?
Yeah, Sneed.
Sneed.
What
I
he
think
wants
that was
money-wise.
That was Verderame yesterday talking with us, yeah.
So if you're going to keep him there, then you bring a guy back on a lower deal, and that'll probably be Dana.
It's an interesting situation here. Because you're right. I mean, in terms of positional value, you go Mike Dana. I don't know, man. Mike Edwards was awesome down the stretch last year. But he's also an older player. He's not your homegrown guy. And the Chiefs have shown, especially on the defensive line, they're willing to keep their homegrown guys. I mean, Turk Wharton and Derek Nottie keep getting contracts.
Yeah, they do. And the other thing is, I think it's a lot easier to find somebody who can be playable for you at safety, backup safety, third safety, than it is to find a guy who will be a productive pass rusher for you. We've gone into seasons thinking, gosh, the Chiefs are a pass rusher away. The Chiefs have to get an additional pass rusher. And they have at times gone pretty deep into training camp or even deep into the season before going and getting for example, Terrell Suggs. Last legs Terrell Suggs, but still Terrell Suggs. Or, yes, Melvin Gordon they got halfway through the year. Carlos Dunlap, when they signed him 2 seasons ago, that was a late camp addition. So those guys are always harder to find. If you've got one, in your hip pocket, one, again, it's the versatility that he brings that I think is so important and gives the Chiefs some ability to move pieces around. You know how much Steve Spagnuolo loves doing that, messing with alignments, moving guys in and out, in interior pass rush from the edge. I really like his fit in Kansas City, and I hope the Chiefs can make something happen with him.
What do you think, if I asked you, what is Mike Dana's market value? What would you guess? What would you give as a contract for him?
What would I do as a contract?
I have the number from Spot Track here.
Okay, so what did Menahu get last year? 2 for 14?
Charles Menahu.
It was 2 for 14, wasn't it?
I think you are correct.
I don't remember how much of that was guaranteed. But I think Menahu was a 2-year 14.
16.
216.
With
okay.
8.6 guaranteed.
Okay, so half the money guaranteed. 2 for 10 with 5 guaranteed. Sounds about right for Dana.
So Spot Track took 4 players from around the league with similar age, previous contract statuses, and statistical production compared to Mike Dana. Carl Lawson, Montez Sweat, Dwayne Smoot, and Draymond Jones. They estimated his market value is $50 million over 3 years.
Whoa.
And he is unsigned now, more than a week into the league year. Isn't that crazy? Or a full week into the league.
What would their prediction have been for Menahu? Because I remember thinking when Menahu got his deal, like, whoa, that seems like an underpay. Because this is, again, Menahu to me is a similar kind of player. Impactful as a pass rusher no matter where you line him up. And maybe you get a discount on Menahu last year because you knew he was going to miss games because he had the domestic violence suspension that was hanging over his head. You didn't know how long it was going to be, but you knew one was coming. So maybe that was a reason that Menahu didn't get maybe as much money as you would have anticipated. But I think Menahu's a better player than Mike Dana is.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
And that's not a knock because I think Dana's a good player. I'm really, really surprised that it is that his market value projection is that high.
He does have a decent number of sacks over the course of his career. What are his total numbers here for his career? Mike Dana, in 4 years with Kansas City, ended up 17 career sacks over 4 years as a guy who never played all that much. I mean, actually this year was the most he'd ever played. He played 74% of the Chiefs' defensive snaps. Previously had played about 50%. I mean, 6.5 sacks as a rotational edge guy. That's pretty good. That's a useful player.
Yeah, it is.
Players who have produced less have gotten more. Chase Young just got $13 million.
Yeah.
Did you see, by the way, he's going to have a neck injury? He has a neck injury.
That goes back to the end of the preseason last year when he got a stinger and didn't play week 1.
I love that. Give
Which
a guy
is crazy
$13 million and immediately he has neck surgery.
Yeah, that stems back to something 8 months ago.
Yeah, that's
like that long ago.
That's why Leighton Vander Esch retired. Too many neck injuries. I wouldn't mess with that either. But I also wouldn't give that guy $13 million. By the way, real quick, something that you brought up, or to get back to something you brought up, Spencer, where does cornerback rank? Because I feel like we've talked about needing wide receiver help, need to get safety depth, need defensive line depth. How high on the list of need is cornerback? Because I feel like we've sort of glossed over that. But if you're only going to have L'Jarius Sneed for 1 more year or 0 more years, you've got McDuffie, you have Shamari Connor, who you can flex into being a slot safety and move McDuffie back outside. How badly do you need a number 1 corner?
I would suppose that our leading Nazi Johnson insider, Spencer Dupuis, roll herd or whatever it is that you say. Go herd. Just go herd. Okay. I can get with that. I have a feeling that he may be higher on the cornerback depth in the organization than even some people.
Hey, and if Nazi Johnson's the guy, then you're set. I mean, it felt like he was going to usurp at least one of those guys last year.
It absolutely did. And we're not going to know how he comes back, but he'll have had a full calendar year to recover from that ACL injury by the time camp begins. So he should be full go. And if the Chiefs still believe in him, believe in his ability,
heck, he'll probably go at he'll probably do something at off-season workouts.
I would imagine.
I think so.
Yeah, I would imagine you're right. So I don't think it's a huge, like, if they put another way, if L'Jarius Sneed did not re-sign, do you think the Chiefs would add a cornerback, would make it a priority in the draft or make it a priority to bring a veteran into camp? And I don't think they would. I think they'd stick with their young guys, and maybe they've always used a third-day pick on a corner. They'd probably do that again.
Yeah.
But no, I think they'd go into camp with McDuffie, with Watson, with Williams, with Johnson with Nick Jones, or not Nick Jones.
Yeah, Nick Jones.
Nick Jones. Got him confused with Cam Jones there for a second. And if those are your 5 corners, and at Boydo is your number 6, who they like well enough to elevate from the practice squad and play on special teams, then I think they feel pretty good about that cornerback room.
And realistically, you're probably drafting one.
Yes,
it is Brett Veach.
You're drafting one, whether it's in the 5th, 6th, or 7th. I don't think they go earlier because they need a running back.
Got to get a running back.
That's something that we haven't really talked about is there's one running back on the roster, maybe 2, the guy they had on the practice.
Deneric Prince, yeah.
And, are they going to elevate LaMichael Pirine? That's 3, but that's not an especially good running back
like
group.
a second or third day guy.
Yeah, you need a legit RB2. You need a pass protector, a guy who can catch the ball a little bit. So a lot of different avenues still open here for the Chiefs. We'll get to a little more Chiefs football coming up on the other side of this break. One website thinks the Chiefs should go for a big name for their new backup quarterback behind Patrick Mahomes. We'll tell you who. Also later on this hour, we'll talk some NIT, K-State versus Iowa coming up tonight. Don't forget to come see us here at Prairie Band Sportsbook at Prairie Band Casino in Mayetta. First 25 people. We've already had a few here today. First 25 people, though, who come into the book during the show today, walk up to the counter and give the code Parlay Your Way. Get a free $10 bet. So go check us out right here at the Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta. We're back talking more Chiefs right after this on 580 Sports Talk. We're just getting started on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, and Spencer Dupuis all here with you, live from Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta. Steve Ollinghouse back at the 580 studios on Huntoon Hill, taking care of the board today. Appreciate Steve-O for helping us out. A couple quick Chiefs notes to get to here. One, the contract numbers are in for Hollywood Brown. We know what he's going to hit against the cap this year for the Chiefs. $6.5 million guaranteed on the one-year deal. He's got just over $4 million in incentives. Cap hit $8.2 million. For wide receiver 2, like I said when they signed him the other day, I don't think you could do better than that.
It's just a really good piece of business.
Yeah.
It really, really smart piece of business. And we talk about it all the time when we look at some of the more eyebrow-raising deals that get thrown around. Bad teams are bad for a reason. Mm-hmm. Well, the good teams, the smart teams, keep winning for a reason. And one of the reasons is you can do a deal like this with a wide receiver who's going to fill a void and really give you what you need in free agency.
He said a couple of interesting things during his media session yesterday. One, he feels like he has not even hit his peak yet. Like, he thinks there is still something to show, and he can show that with Patrick Mahomes. Now, I think every player says that when they sign with a new team. If you're an old guy, it's, hey, I still have a lot left in the tank. If you're still young, it's, hey, you haven't seen everything yet. So I'm not surprised he said that, but it's at least an enticing thing if you're a Chiefs fan. The other thing, he does indeed prefer to go by Hollywood. Like, that's not one of those nicknames that everyone calls him, but he doesn't like Honey Badger and Tyrann Mathieu, where he's like, no, please call me Tyrann. No, Hollywood Brown wants to be Hollywood Brown. Which, given the rest of the Brown family and the fact that he's cousins with Antonio Brown, if wanting to be called Hollywood is his biggest flaw, I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah.
That's fine with me.
I'm trying to think where he ranks on the list of Hollywoods of all time. You have Hollywood Henderson, who was probably a more prominent interview giver than a player. He's a good player for those Cowboys team in the 70s. Had one of the all-time great sound bites where he said Terry Bradshaw couldn't spell cat if you spotted him the C and the T, which is an incredibly mean thing to say about somebody, and actually really hurt Terry Bradshaw's feelings legitimately for years. But also Hollywood Henderson won the lottery in his post-playing days. Like
$28 million. I'm just seeing that now.
Yeah, hit a huge lick
wow.
in a state lottery. Yeah. Yes, so there's Hollywood Henderson. There's obviously Hollywood Hulk Hogan, the evil persona of Hulk Hogan, who it turns out in real life, much more Hollywood than Hulk.
Yeah, not a great guy.
No.
And by not great, I mean a really, really bad person.
Possibly a racist.
I don't think there's much possibly about it. The one thing you have, Hollywood Hogan in the NWO was untouchable. I mean, was awesome. Everything about the NWO was cool. Also, he was in Muppets from Space, which is a major bonus for him. I love that film.
Hollywood Brown's got to get a ring. I mean, he might be on the podium right now, but if he wants to move up some places in the Hollywood power rankings, he's got to go get about 800 yards, about half a dozen touchdowns, go win a ring.
Here's another one.
If he gets half a dozen touchdowns, then he's going to make $750,000.
There you go. That's pretty good incentive.
That probably means a little more to him than the
But if he gets
Hollywood power rankings.
7, it'll go up to $1 million.
Here's another question for you. Gus Johnson, very, very polarizing, right? As a play-by-play guy, some people love the screaming, some people not so much. Is Hollywood Brown the guy currently in the NFL who's been elevated by a play-by-play guy the most?
Until Maserati Marv enters the league.
See, but he was already expected to be like a star.
Yeah.
But Hollywood Brown.
I can't hear the name Hollywood Brown without hearing it in 3 distinct syllables from Gus Johnson.
In Gus's voice.
Yeah.
He really elevated that man's whole career.
That's a good point. He did.
I'm not sure anyone else more so.
He did more for him than his agent.
That's probably true. Also this. All right, so Blaine Gabbert is this past year's backup quarterback for the Chiefs, right? 1-year deal. It is certainly possible that he returns. But the Chiefs like to have a veteran behind Patrick Mahomes. They've tried to go with old guys because they want a guy who has been around.
Chad Henne, Matt Moore.
Isn't going to make mistakes. If you need him to, come in and try to right the ship in a tough moment if Mahomes gets banged up, you can roll with that. Bleacher Report yesterday, came out with a list of 6 teams that would be the top possible landing spots for Zach Wilson and Ryan Tannehill as backup quarterbacks. Would you like to hear the list?
Yes, please.
First, the Chicago Bears. That doesn't make a lick of sense to me. They also have a backup quarterback who has started NFL games.
They actually have two, I think. Didn't they sign another
Secret
backup?
Bagent man,
Yeah,
right?
they got
He's still
Tyson
there?
Bagent.
No, but didn't they sign another quarterback?
Maybe.
I actually don't even know. Denver is on the list. Some competition for
They'd start. Either of those guys would start in Denver.
Tannehill certainly would. So Denver's on the list. Detroit, Green Bay, that's not going to happen. The San Francisco 49ers, and the Kansas City Chiefs.
People just put whatever they want on the internet.
I will be honest. I could see Tannehill. I could talk myself into that because I would imagine at this point he knows he's not starting again. I would hope for his own sake that he knows I'm probably going to go be a backup, maybe a spot starter. I mean, his body is cooked at this point, but he can still probably go in for a half or to kneel down a game or whatever. I don't want Zach Wilson anywhere near the Kansas City Chiefs. That's a terrible idea. That is an absolutely awful idea. I could see Tannehill, though. I could see an argument for that.
I think Tannehill would bring that veteran,
right?
That they're all talking about, like that they've had in the past with their backups. But if you get Zach Wilson, that's just a guy that's looking for another opportunity. And
none of his other teammates liked. Let's not forget the fact
he's
none
not
of his
well
teammates
liked.
Well, he was always hitting on their moms.
Yeah, that's true. He's not well liked.
Yeah,
and he's not very
allegedly.
good.
Allegedly, let's sprinkle some allegedly on that last.
He's not very good if you look up at the stats.
No, he's terrible.
Allegedly, and he may get a spot start at the end of the season if they're already wrapped up a playoff spot. So why would he want to even be on the Chiefs besides to get a ring and just be a backup getting a ring?
Do you think Wilson would start in Denver?
Zach Wilson? Yes, I do.
So
Jarrett Stidham stinks.
Jarrett Stidham does stink.
Zach Wilson does too, but
he might start for them this year.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes, they gave him a 2-year deal last offseason.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Josh McDaniels. Thanks, Josh McDaniels.
Yes, thank you, Josh McDaniels. Yes, that is certainly Jarrett Stidham's rabbi. No, like Zach Wilson is not, I don't think, any better than Jarrett Stidham, but he was a number 2 pick in the draft. Jarrett Stidham wasn't. I kind of think low-key Denver's trying to be as bad as possible this year.
Okay.
It was a lot of big talk from the visor last year, Sean Payton, but I think this year they kind of understand. I don't know that they're tanking. We'll see about what they do with this quarterback class and if they take a quarterback in this class, but I don't know. I could see them being really, really bad. And what would help you be bad? Zach Wilson, verifiably losing quarterback in the NFL.
Or just doing a rotation of Jarrett Stidham, Ben DiNucci, and Zach Wilson. That would be even worse.
Look, I got no love for the Denver Broncos, but I got a lot of friends who do, and they deserve better than this, man. I'm starting to feel bad for them on a personal level.
I mean, they're Nuggets fans too, aren't they?
Most of them. Yeah,
there you
you'd
go.
think so. A lot of Lakers and Broncos overlap, which is weird. I think that's probably a certain generation who didn't have an NFL team in LA.
That makes sense.
Like Utah residents, maybe.
Yeah, no, I can get that.
Or like Nevada residents.
Southern Utah.
Neither here nor there. Back to the question at hand. I don't know what you're dreaming on, though, with Zach Wilson, really, other than the draft, where he was taken in the draft. I don't know what he has shown you other than one quarter against the Chiefs last year where you think, oh, yeah, there's something here. There's something to salvage. There is a player here, and I am the one who can unlock it.
Well, if the Chiefs were the Jaguars, they would sign him.
Oh, yeah, because that's right. No, I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, because he had the one good game against them. That's right. No, but that's true. Like, you take – okay, Sam Howell gets traded from the Commanders to the Seahawks. Your thought there is, okay, he's got a big arm. We saw him throw a ton. Like, there's clearly some sort of arm talent there. Justin Fields stinks, but at least you're like, well, he can run. Like, he's at least a playmaker. Not a lot of them, but he can at least do that. What does Zach Wilson do? Well, he doesn't have a strong arm. He doesn't have good pocket presence. He turns the ball over a ton. He can't run. Like, there's nothing there at all. So I don't know why that would make any sense. And that's talking about the good pieces of business the Chiefs have made. I think that's a pretty good example why they would never go for a deal like that. Although I am kind of enticed by Ryan Tannehill as a backup. I really don't hate that idea. We'll move from the NFL to college basketball coming up next. The Kansas State Wildcats are in action. NIT basketball tonight, taking on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Iowa's favored by multiple possessions in this game. I've got some numbers that might indicate the wrong team is favored in this one. That's coming up next here on 580 Sports Talk. .580 Sports Talk coming at you on this Tuesday afternoon. Brendan, Dan, Spencer with you from Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta at Prairie Band Casino and Resort. We're here all the way through the entire edition of the show today, done at 6 o'clock. First 25 people to come into the Sportsbook today. You walk over to the counter. It is just behind me to my right, and you say, I've got a code. It's Parlay Your Way. You get a $10 free bet right away. We've had plenty of foot traffic in here already, though, so if you want that free bet, you better scamper on in here to Prairie Band Sportsbook.
What was that guy that came up to you? He said, what was that free code?
Yeah, well, he said, Where do I go? Just at the counter? Yes, right over here, right to the counter. Just give
He
him
went to the
parlay your
counter.
way
He looked
and-
so excited.
I know. Get that $10 free bet.
I'd be excited too if somebody gave me $10 to put on
Long Beach State,
Colorado
beating Arizona.
State money line tonight.
Gonna put the full 10 on it.
Boy,
I don't know. If I
hope for your sake the Beach at least have a good showing, because if they lose by 35, when is that game? When is that game?
That's one of the earlier games, I think.
Yes, that is a Thursday afternoon game. We're going to be on the air when that game goes final, Spencer. And you better hope for your sake that the Beach hang tough, that they signed up for 40.
Hopefully.
Because if they lose by 40, I'm going to give you some grief. I'm just going to let you know.
We're going to make some picks a little bit later on in the show on the first 4 games. There's one tonight I really like. And I'm not the only one who really likes this, because everybody hates the team they're playing. I think almost the entire world is going to be on Colorado State tonight.
Yeah, I would agree. As a person that's from Virginia, I would agree.
You got a lot of anti-University of Virginia bias here.
Yeah.
Between the local bias and then Dan just hates the way they play.
Long
basketball.
time UVA and Tony Bennett hater, Dan Lucero.
That is correct. No, that is 100% the truth.
Remember the year I picked him to lose to Gardner Webb in the first round?
Yes, because it was the year after they lost to UMBC in the first round.
Yes, and Gardner Webb, I think, led with like 13 minutes to go. Oh, man.
I will say, not a bad arena to watch basketball.
What, the JPJ? Or
the John Paul Jones
John
Arena.
Paul Jones,
Saul Marshall.
Yes, named after a guy from Led
obliterated.
Zeppelin, I believe.
Saul Marshall
No,
get
it's not.
obliterated by them on New Year's Day courtside.
Oh,
Yeah.
Good seats, though.
Shout out to my mom's friend that's an alumnus and has courtside
there you
seats.
go.
They didn't name it after the Led Zeppelin guy?
No.
I'm sure. I thought you knew that was a joke. I thought you.
I knew it was a joke. I'm selling the joke. Come on now.
I hope.
Be funny if he had ties to Charlottesville, though. Also, NIT basketball tonight. The Kansas State Wildcats are in action. You'll be able to hear their opening round NIT game this evening right here on 580 WIBW and the K-State Sports Network. Taking on Iowa. Pre-game coverage begins at 7 o'clock. Tip-off for that game from Carver Hawkeye Arena at 8 o'clock today. So I told you earlier, Iowa's favored by 5.5 points in this game. Okay,
Yes,
5.5. You know, I like the math. You don't need a ton of math to break this game down. All you need to know is this. Iowa scores a ton, plays absolutely no defense. K-State struggles mightily to score, but plays really good defense. Very contrasting styles in this game. Ken Pom, one of the forefathers of the analytical movement in basketball, has Iowa favored by 1.3 points today. Just 1.3. Again, spread's 5.5. Now, that doesn't include home court advantage for Iowa, but 1.3 points if you put them on a neutral court. And this might be a fairly neutral court because K-State fans, even for a game like this, travel pretty well. Iowa fans, I think, gave up on Iowa basketball like 3 weeks into November.
Will they even get half as much of a crowd in there as they will for their first and second round women's games?
No. I would say no. A firm no. Who is willingly paying money to go watch Fran McCaffrey basketball right now? I wouldn't if I was an Iowa fan.
I mean, they were a top 20 team in offense. I was looking at this yesterday because I was curious. Like the difference between great offense and great defense and how that determines like who makes the tournament. So Iowa was the best offensive team in the country to miss the NCAA tournament, according to Ken Palm's adjusted offensive numbers. They have the 15th best offense in the country, according to Ken Palm's numbers. Mm-hmm. They were one of 3 teams in the top 25 in the country in offense who didn't make the NCAA tournament. The others were St. John's, who just missed. They were 20th in the country, and Indiana State, who again just missed, and they were 22nd in the country. That's top 25 in adjusted offense.
Okay.
Adjusted defense, 8 of the top 25 defensive teams in the country did not make the NCAA tournament. Rutgers, 5th best defense in the country, not even close. Villanova, 13th best defense, not even close. Maryland, 14th best, not close. UCF, 15th best, not close. Cincinnati and Providence, 17th and 18th, not even under consideration.
Wow.
K-State, 22nd, not really close to the bubble.
Nope.
Loyola Chicago, 25th best defense, not really under consideration.
How about that?
So what that tells me is that a much more true predictor of who's going to get to the tournament, you got to score the ball, man. You can be a great defensive team. You can dictate the tempo, all these things. You have to put the ball in the basket if you want to win games.
So we already have one, Ken Pom, which says Iowa should be a smaller favorite than 5.5 based on his numbers. I've told you about my buddy before. My best friend works for Stats Inc. He has his own proprietary metric, and he does bracketology as well. He's part of the bracket matrix. He has his own system, similarly built, but he weights things differently than Ken Palm does. He has, even with K-State being on the road, his numbers have K-State as a favorite by 0.5 point today. He has them as a 0.6 point favorite. He has K-State ranked higher in his numbers than KU. Because of their defense. He also, in terms of shot quality, has K-State above KU this year. Which we have talked about, right? That if K-State learned to not turn the ball over like it was going out of style, they're a tournament team this year.
Yes.
Not a question in my mind they're a tournament team because they would have won 2 or 3 of those closer games, or maybe they don't have to go to overtime against Oral Roberts and the like, right? So he likes K-State, or his metric likes K-State a lot. He has K-State on the road favored against Iowa tonight. That spread's 5.5. I'm on K-State in this one, man. I also think K-State's going to be more motivated than Iowa, to be completely honest with you.
So that's what it's about, right? Like, this is the NIT. It's sort of like the bowl games that they play in early December. That, like, you go back and
Quick Lane Bowl.
Yeah, you go back and you visit your family and they're on TV, and like you put it on if you don't want to talk to your uncle or whatever, and you just kind of pay more attention to the Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl, RIP, whatever it might be. Those games oftentimes come down to who's invested. Like, who is bought into this being a valuable opportunity for them? Because it's easy for us to poo-poo it and say, yeah, it doesn't matter. Ooh, yeah, you're the 69th best team in the country. Nice. Who cares? But for these two teams, it's going to be about, okay, which of these teams wants to keep playing? Which of these two teams has guys who are committed to playing the right way, to playing together as a team, to trying to keep their season going? The way Jerome Tang talks about his team, I don't think that this group of guys will have any problem being motivated to play for each other. If they're the team that Jerome Tang believes them to be, if they're the team that Jerome Tang has insisted that they are in terms of their personality, in terms of their togetherness, I think they're going to have a really good showing for themselves tonight. And I wouldn't be surprised if they win more than one game in this tournament.
They've got Mr. NIT in Tyler Perry. They've got a bunch of young guys who are going to be getting plenty of exposure. I don't know I would assume everyone's going to play in this game.
So Tang spoke. I was cutting
the
audio earlier, and he was asked if he would play the young guys, and he basically said, we'll try to get them in, but we're here to win. Essentially, paraphrasing what he said is, he said, we're here to win. We'll get guys in when we can.
I mean, if there's a situation where you don't need to, have Tyler Perry on the floor for 40 minutes to win, I would like to see more, and it's not just Perry, obviously, but I would like to see the young guys more in this event. But yeah, I think K-State's got a legitimate chance here. Are you filling out a bracket for the NIT this year?
I am not filling out an NIT bracket.
I filled out one, but it's just a paper bracket, and I do have the championship game as North Texas versus Kansas State.
Oh, the drama.
The Tyler Perry Bowl.
Tyler Perry game.
I have never filled out an NIT bracket, and this is not the year I start.
No, I don't either. Do you do a women's bracket?
This is actually the first year I filled out a women's bracket.
I have filled out a women's bracket too, but that's because I have a horse in the race, and I have Marshall going to the Elite Eight.
No, I'm pretty excited to watch. I'm genuinely excited to watch women's tournament this year. I've watched more and more of it the last 2 years. I just didn't fill out a bracket because I didn't watch a ton of regular season basketball, but I followed this women's regular season a lot closer. Kansas State doing what they did, and KU making a run to secure an at-large, and watching some games happen to be on TV. I felt like a little more qualified to fill out a bracket this year. Also, tell your guy Boydetology, I'm in on Florida Gulf Coast.
Okay.
As a result of his numbers. FGCU to the Sweet 16.
All right. He's going to be very happy to hear that. I guarantee you on that. Who's your pick?
South Carolina.
Yeah.
They're unbeat for a reason. South Carolina over Iowa. It's a pretty risk-averse bracket, but, I mean,
That's exactly who I have, too.
I mean, best team
great
versus
minds,
best
right,
player.
Spencer? Great minds.
I probably will pick the same thing if I end up going through with the bracket this year. Have you watched any South Carolina basketball this year? We all know they're undefeated, but
I haven't watched a ton. I really like that the guard Full Wiley. She's got some sauce, and Cardoso's 6'7", just a wrecking machine in the paint. An absolute beast. They got some fun players.
Did you hear what some national host said about her the other day?
Yes. It was horrible.
Her the big Brazilian woman who knocks people over. Why would you say that? Why would you ever say so? And
Yes.
If there was someone I wouldn't want to make angry,
Dawn Staley.
it's Dawn Staley. I would not want any part of the bad side of Dawn Staley. That's going to do it for this 2 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. We're just getting started here on the show today, though. We'll talk some KU basketball coming up to lead off next hour on 580 Sports Talk. Now it's the 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk going up on a Tuesday. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, and Spencer Dupuis all live with you from Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta at Prairie Band Casino and Resort. Been a busy day at the book today. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us. Seen some of our good friends, longtime listeners of the show, coming up and hanging out with us here just about 20 minutes north of the capital city. Shout out to our guy Jayhawk, who made an appearance just a little bit ago. Appreciate everyone who has swung by over the course of the show today.
Hey, you got 3 more hours if you want to come and say hello, and if you would like to get a $10 free bet, you got 3 more hours. Come on by. We're the first 25, so we're not all the way there yet, but we're getting close.
Yes.
So you want to make sure if you want that $10 free bet, you come out sooner rather than later, of course. But you come to the table.
And I think a lot of people might be hoping around 4:30 when they get off work that we're still under 25.
Man, you never know. You never know. Tell your boss that you have something you can't miss.
Yeah.
And then that something is chilling with us at the Prairie Band Sportsbook. And you come up and you go to the table and you say, I have the code. I have the magic words. Parlay your way. And if you say those words to the people at the book, they will give you a $10 free bet to use on the NCAA tournament or the NHL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, futures, totals, money lines, whatever you want. $10 free bet if you say parlay your way here at the Prairie Band Sportsbook.
And I am super excited because this will be the first time that we're here at Prairie Band Live when we are going right into games. The games,
yes.
I believe, are going to start before we even go off the air today.
Yeah, 5:40 tip-off for Howard versus Wagner, which, to my knowledge, is the first time that a first 4 matchup has also been a guy's name.
I think you're correct. I think you are spot on with that, in fact. I don't think there's anyone out there named Texas A&M Corpus Christi from last year. So, no, probably clear in that regard.
Howard Wagner.
No, so we are super excited for that. It
Imagine
is such an
if
awesome
you were
setup.
Howard Wagner. Like if that were your name, and then that was the game tonight.
Yeah, you're probably getting all sorts of weird emails.
Or Wagner Howard. You know, that could be a name.
Yeah, a little more German, certainly.
Yeah, Wagner Howard, perhaps?
Wagner Howard, yeah. Howard Wagner is the other one who's going to be drafted by the Magic here in a couple of years out of Michigan.
The third Wagner brother, yes.
The third Wagner brother. Coming up here in this 3 o'clock hour, we've got plenty of NCAA tournament basketball to get to. We'll talk some KU hoops here in just a second as they get ready for Samford coming up a little bit later on this week. That'll be a Thursday night game. Also in this hour, we've got Random Question Tuesday. And Matt Norlander from CBS Sports put together a list today, all 68 teams and their head coaches in the conference or in the NCAA tournament. Who is every coach's favorite musical act? Some of these answers are very predictable, like Scott Drew's, for example, picking worship music. Not a surprise if you know anything about Scott Drew. Bill Self went with Earth, Wind, and Fire. I thought he was going to pick Darius Rucker. I know he is a big Darius Rucker fan, for a fact. I thought he was going to pick him. Earth, Wind, and Fire, though, more than happy with that pick.
Yeah, so Bill Self's a year older than my dad, and like Earth, Wind, and Fire would be one of like the 3 or 4 bands I think my dad would answer if you asked him that question. So yeah, Earth, Wind, and Fire tracks.
They should bring Earth, Wind, and how many members of Earth, Wind, and Fire are still with us?
I think is it just one, or am I thinking of the Temptations?
I'm honestly not sure. We'll have to look that up. That is who I hope Bill Self pitches for late night next year.
Man, that would rule.
That'd be awesome. All the kids would leave, but all the parents, all the adults would love it.
You'd think so. Man. Who are these guys? And they start up December, and the kids would be like, oh, this is my jam.
This rules. Hell yeah. So that is, we'll get to that coming up at the bottom of the hour as well. You're welcome to join us on the YouTube feed, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. We are also streaming the show live on the WIPW News Facebook page, and you can find us on Twitter at 580 Sports Talk as well. Plus, you can join us on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429 is the Top City Metal Supply text line number. No more wasting money on metal pieces that leave you with unnecessary leftovers, because Top City Metal Supply will cut the exact lengths of aluminum, steel, and stainless steel tailored to your project specifications. Start optimizing your budget with Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field, back home in the capital city, and appreciate them sponsoring our text line.
Philip Bailey and Verdine White are both still around.
Okay.
Both still touring as Earth, Wind, and Fire. Maurice White has passed on.
All right. Well,
there are definitely some interesting interesting artists in here.
Yeah, we're going to get to this, and we're going to pick some of the matchups based on who the artists are. Also, a little tease for you. Will Wade has an all-time quote in this piece from Matt Norlander.
Okay, he does.
It is incredibly funny. So we'll get to that a little bit later on. As for the games itself, we know Hunter Dickinson and Kevin McCullar are banged up for KU. Right now, and this is based on what Bill Self had to say, this is just based on my intuition at this point, I think Hunter Dickinson is going to play. I am very much 50-50, maybe even 45-55 that Kevin McCullar goes in this game against Samford. If he plays and Dickinson plays, I think KU is going to be able to handle their business. One potential outcome here, does KU handle this game like it handled the Oklahoma State game in the regular season? Before we knew how messed up Kevin McCullar's knee actually was and how bad this bone bruise was, when we knew going into the game, okay, Kevin McCullar's banged up. He could probably play. He played the game before. He'll play this weekend, but he's not going to play against Oklahoma State. It's kind of a maintenance thing. We knew they didn't need him to beat Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State stunk. Home, road, didn't matter. They didn't need Kevin McCullar for that game. Can you afford to do that in an NCAA tournament game? And especially an NCAA tournament game where this is not, 1 seed versus 16 seed team that just played 2 days prior in a play-in, something like that. Can you afford a maintenance game in the tournament against a team that is going to put up a lot of threes and is going to challenge you defensively?
Yeah, I don't know, especially like we talked about with Samford. Their stock and trade offensively is the three ball. And if they're going to take a lot of threes, you would think they'll make their fair share. They're not going to go like 2 for 30. You're going to need some shooting punch, and McCullar gives you that. McCullar gives you space to operate. McCullar is a defender that can make it hard for those guys to get their shot off the bench, a shot off against. Even a diminished version of Kevin McCullar helps KU in that game. And if that's all they get, then that's all they get. But on the flip side, you should, if you are Kansas, have a roster that is good enough to beat Samford without one of your 2 best players. That's, though, the problem with Kansas this year, is that they don't have that roster. We know they don't have that roster because we saw that roster. We saw what it looked like against Houston. We saw what it looked like against Cincinnati when they also didn't have Hunter Dickinson. And it's just not a real good roster beyond those guys at this point.
Even if you want to give a different example and say, okay, well, yeah, Houston's maybe the best team in the entire country, and Cincinnati at least is a team in the Big 12. Why don't we go back to the earlier parts of the season? Do you remember what the final score of KU versus Eastern Illinois was? And Eastern Illinois wasn't a bubble team this year, that's for damn sure.
That was a tight one, wasn't it?
71-63. KU won by 8 at Allen Fieldhouse over Eastern Illinois. That was the fewest points KU had ever beaten a KenPom 300-plus team by. 8 points. You can't get by. This team specifically can't get by in games like that. They just don't have the horses. And again, do you want to say, well, the timeouts are longer and halftime is longer and you get a little bit more rest? Yeah, sure. But you're still playing high level, high energy, emotional college basketball. That doesn't, fix every single one of your depth problems. So I still think that is going to end up being a concern. An addendum to the question here. Who, if you only get one, you can only have either Hunter Dickinson or Kevin McCullar. Who's more important in this game?
Hunter.
Okay. There you go.
Because he's 7'2", man. He's a mismatch for just about everybody, right? So that's the guy that, okay, if I'm going to derive a significant advantage from one player, it's going to be, well, if we need a hoop, we can just throw it inside to Hunter and we'll shoot 70% on our twos. And that's how we'll win this game. Like that I think is the formula for Kansas in this matchup. Is we're going to keep Samford from going nuts from 3. Like, we keep them at a reasonable percentage from behind the arc, and we're going to shoot 70-75% on twos because we're going to break their press and take advantage of transition opportunities. And if it gets in the half court, we're just going to throw it inside to Goliath.
Plus, he's a second-team All-American.
Yeah, So not to say that you want to not have either of them. My question, though, is stylistically, defensively, is that still the same case? Because Samford's not going to try to get to the bucket. They shoot over 40% of their shots from 3-point range. This is not sometimes they shoot. No, they shoot all the time. That is all they do. Does that make it more imperative defensively? Again, you don't have to choose, thankfully. Hopefully, KU ends up getting both of them, and I think KU will be able to take care of business if that's the case. But because of the defense, does that neutralize a little bit of what Dickinson does for you? Do you end up in a little bit of a 4-on-5 scenario defensively because Hunter can't guard the perimeter? I, for what it's worth, this is mostly a devil's advocate question because I agree with you because they don't have anything that can match up with. They have Zach Loveday. You remember him from Baylor? He was a transfer to Samford. Probably not because I don't think he ever played when he was at Baylor or barely ever played when he was at Baylor. Like, he's 7 feet tall. That dude is not matching up with Hunter Dickinson.
No.
Hunter is going to dominate offensively or should be able to dominate offensively. But if you can't guard them on the other side because you have to have a guy who's in the post constantly, does that make it tougher against this team that shoots all the time?
That's a fair question. And again, if Samford, the other question too, Samford's going to press. You know, they press more than any other team in the tournament by percentage of possessions and by some distance too. Like it's not even the second place team in terms of most often deploying the press. It's not close. Samford really, really presses. Well, who helps you against the press? People who can handle the ball. People who can get up and down the floor. McCullar is a good ball handler. And his presence against the press helps you crack that press and turn those backcourt opportunities into, oh, hey, it's 3-on-2 the other way. And now we got DeJuan to the basket, or we've got Furphy to the basket, or we're getting KJ at the rim, getting much better shots, turning those press break opportunities, because I don't think Samford's going to turn KU over 20 times. I don't think that's going to happen. We've seen KU get a little loose with the ball at times. I think it cost them big in the, at Baylor is the game I'm thinking of, where they got sloppy with the ball over about a 2-minute stretch against a press, and it really cost them in that game. They ended up losing it in Waco. But that's not the norm with this group, especially with some of the veteran guys that they have who can help break that press. So McCullar would definitely be the guy that I think could help you do that better and maybe match up a little bit defensively better. But it goes back to the point I was making earlier. You got to score the ball to win a game. And for Kansas, they are better off, I think, in this game pressing the advantage they do have offensively. And that is, we've got a big guy and we've got a coach who knows how to get easy shots for post players better maybe than any coach who's ever lived.
That's 100% true. And I agree. For what it is worth, I do agree that Dickinson is the guy you would rather have. And I do think he is going to end up playing. And again, similarly in this matchup, if he is even 80%, 75% of what he normally is, he's still going to be the biggest matchup nightmare on the floor for KU against Samford. Can you beat anyone if you don't have both of those guys the rest of the way? Like KU, if they only have one of those guys, should be able to beat Samford. I know it's a tough matchup stylistically. You should still be able to beat Samford. Can you beat McNeese? Can you beat Gonzaga if you only have one of them?
You might be able to beat McNeese if you've got Dickinson. Again, McNeese is big. Gonzaga, it's a little tougher. Gonzaga does have a big man you got to reckon with. He's not as big, but Graham Ike is a good player.
And they're long.
And they got good guards. Like, I don't know. Like, right now on my bracket, I still have Gonzaga beating Kansas in the second round. But I think Kansas could beat McNeese if they were shorthanded. Again, talent-wise, they would have the 3 best players in that game. Maybe 3 of the 4, depending on how you feel about Shahada Wells, who was a decent Big 12 player at TCU before he transferred to McNeese to play for Will Wade. But I tend to think that matters sometimes in March. Like, who has all the best guys? And Kansas would have more of the best guys on the floor against McNeese than they would have against Gonzaga. Against Gonzaga, I think you could argue Gonzaga would have more of the best guys.
Give me a bench guy who's got the best matchup in this game for KU on Thursday.
Nick Timberlake.
See, that's my answer too, and I hate it.
I know.
Every time we start to say, okay, he's going to make a contribution. This is a game for him. This is made for him. This is built for him. I mean, he just craters. He's been bad. There's no, well, if you look at this number, no, he's been bad. Across the board, everything. He has been straight up terrible for KU this year. Yeah. There's really no other way to put it aside from senior day and a couple of cool dunks in home games this year.
But you know what you get against the press? You get 2 opportunities more often against a press. You get opportunities at the basket, and you get open 3-point looks. Like, way open three-point looks. Nick Timberlake, sit in the corner. He should take half a dozen corner threes. And if he makes 2 of them, you take that.
I hope he's willing to shoot him. He wasn't even willing to do that.
God.
Against Cincinnati.
Oh, that's a fact. He did. He had a transition 3 opportunity. And Bill Self talked a lot about after that Cincinnati game. It's like, we just don't have guys who are playing with any confidence. And maybe this tournament just gives KU a chance to say, hey, all the stuff, all those bad losses we had in the regular season, all the stuff we've went through, none of that stuff matters now. This is the tournament. This is an opportunity to start brand new. You have a fresh start. You have a clean slate. Nick Timberlake, if you play with some confidence and shoot the ball well for the next 3 weeks, nobody's going to care that you had a terrible regular season. Nobody's going to mind at all. Nobody's going to care that you, as a group, lost more Big 12 games than any team since the George H.W. Bush administration in conference play. Nobody will care about that if you play well starting Thursday. Play well Thursday and go from there. So I think that helps, honestly, a player like Timberlake, who did have such a disappointing year. There were some highs, but they were so few and far between.
Lows.
So you know that he's capable. He just has to play like he believes that he is.
The situation you have to avoid, and this isn't just for the Stanford game, I mean, this is the entire run. You have to avoid a scenario where you need Timberlake and Jackson to be playmakers. Like, if they are on the floor and they are in some sort of ancillary or complementary role, you can live with that. But, I mean, we've all seen them up close and personal. We've seen them on TV. We've seen them in a variety of different environments. If you need to call something where you say, El Marco, go make a play, it's not going to end well. It's just not. If you call something that, hey, we need Timberlake to be, the point man on this play, it's not going to work. It just hasn't all year long. And that, again, brings us back to the problem that KU has had all year. This just isn't a good enough roster. And that's crazy, but neither of those guys are bucket getters. They're not scorers. Timberlake is a spot up catch and shoot guy who refuses to shoot. And then when he does, they're not accurate. And it is concerning to me, and this is why I am not 100% sold he's going to return to KU next year. That's not a report. That's just a feeling. The game has not slowed down for El Marco Jackson at all. I mean, KU's played 30 games, and it has not slowed down one bit for him.
Yeah, like even with a guy like Day-Day Ames for K-State, who did not come in with the same level of prospect hype, if you will, as an El Marco Jackson. Like, Day-Day was a high 4-star guy, a solid 4-star guy, Chicago Player of the Year, but El Marco was a 5-star, McDonald's All-American.
Yes.
Player. So you expect more out of those guys as freshmen, even in a league as tough as the Big 12. With Day-Day Ames watching K-State games, you could see as he played more, he got more comfortable. You saw that manifest. He played really well against Texas in the Big 12 tournament. He had that game where it felt like the game was coming to him a little bit more naturally, that he understood the things that he could do and did them. El Marco Jackson very much seems like a player who doesn't quite know what it is that he does well or what niche he's supposed to fill.
I would say that, especially my short time here being able to watch him play a few games. I mean, one game he didn't really do anything when it came to looking at the stat sheet, but he was one of the only guys with a +5 or above. But he had 2 rebounds and 1 assist, and that was it.
I think he's thinking too much. I don't think the game has slowed down for him at all.
The Quentin Grimes comparison is a natural one to make because it's a recent example of a 5-star guard coming in and not really living up to the expectations. But I sort of felt that way about Quentin Grimes too, where he just wasn't sure what kind of player he needed to be to best help the team. Like, what is my role supposed to be? And some of that kind of got to put on Bill Self, right? To say, why is it that he's not getting the best out of this guy?
Well, I'm going to beat the dead horse again, but that's probably because, and CJ brought this up on Thursday, he hasn't played the position he should be a ball-dominant guard. El Marco Jackson, in a best-case scenario, because he was not going to be a one-and-done guy because he's still so new to bat. I mean, he only started playing 4 years ago or whatever it is. His best role would have been 18 minutes a game, 10 of them as the backup point guard to Harris, and 2 or 3, 2 to 5 as a 2 guard. But he's had to play the 2 guard all year because you don't have a good 2 guard, because Timberlake stinks and was never supposed to be a starter, and because Arterio Morris got kicked off the team because he is allegedly a predator. Like, that's the situation you're in. And it's poor roster construction. And I don't need to get into it. You have heard me complain about this for the better part of this entire season. But that is the situation we're in. And again, CJ brought that up when we talked to him on Thursday, that if you had actually had everybody who was supposed to fill your starting 5 and those 5 core positions, you wouldn't have had that scenario. That is not the situation we've dealt with KU, though, this year. And now you're in the tournament, and now it's do or die, and you have to deal with the same problems you have been dealing with for the entirety of the year going into the NCAA tournament. We'll talk some more NCAA tournament later on in the show. Right now, we have to get to a break, and after that, we've got this week's What is Wrong With You? That's next hour. We've got Random Question Tuesday. That's coming up in just a moment, right back here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, and Spencer live with you from Prairie Band Sportsbook at Prairie Band Casino and Resort in Mayetta. We're here throughout the show today. Appreciate the fine folks at Prairie Band having us out this afternoon. We'll lead you right into coverage of the opening round play-in games of the college basketball men's national tournament tonight. Big thanks to our pal Steve Olinghouse, who's back at the 580 studios on Huntoon Hill in the capital city on the board for us today. Random Question Tuesday time before we get into some fun stuff with the NCAA tournament later on in the hour. My question comes from, it is the biggest question probably in the entire world right now. It's what the entire globe, the whole world over, is talking about. Where's Kate? Where is Kate Middleton?
Me and my girlfriend were just talking about this on the phone the other night.
What is your conspiracy theory as to where she has gone? Why she is not in the public eye? Why she felt the need to apparently Photoshop a picture herself and post it? And why they have body doubles who look like her walking around with Prince William?
Maybe she just wants to be out of the spotlight.
So that's what I kind of think. I think she just sort of wants to be left alone.
She needs a break.
Been in the public eye for a long time.
I don't care, man. I gotta be honest. Anytime the American public gets fascinated by the doings of the royal family, I say to myself, didn't we win a war that said we didn't have to care about what those people do anymore?
That's certainly true.
Didn't we win that war many hundreds of years ago? That's what I think to myself. Didn't my ancestors fight? Didn't Paul Revere ride? So I didn't have to give a damn about the royal family of England. Wasn't that the whole point? That I don't have to care. That's all I'm saying. I hope she's alive. I hope she's alive and she's doing well.
I mean, I hope she's okay.
King Charles definitely dead, though. Oh yeah. He did.
Has he also been missing? Well, I know he had surgery.
There have been some rumors.
I read a whole thing from Sarah, royal gossip influencer on Twitter.
So you're really deep into this then.
Well, I saw someone else post about it. It gave me a chance to share the clip from Righteous Gemstones where Uncle Baby Billy goes, "Go outside, nerd." And I got to reply to her with it. But it was this whole thing about how they're going to be moving around and like skipping one of them in succession. And they're going to appoint their like 6-year-old child to be the King of England. It was a whole thing. Barack Obama is involved. I'm not kidding.
Sure.
He's listed at the bottom of this.
I feel like he's always involved in something these days.
Yeah, I mean, he's just around.
Yeah, he's just like always mentioned in things.
The life of the ex-president. Yeah. What's your theory?
I just think she just wants to be away from the spotlight. That's it.
I think it was a bad nose job. That's the conspiracy I'm riding with. I find that one to be the funniest outcome. So I'm going with that one.
No, she is actually going to star in the Suits reboot.
Oh, replace Meghan Markle?
Yes.
Who apparently none of the people in that show like. I was just watching a video. We were talking about that show the other day.
Yes.
We were talking about the actors and actresses.
Yes. Like D.B. Woodside, the actor, dated a character in Suits, and then those two were also a couple on 911 Lone Star.
Yes.
What is the actress's name? It's going to drive me crazy now.
Gina Torres.
Gina Torres, thank you.
Yes, and she did some interview on a red carpet recently. They're like, "Oh, is the whole crew getting back together from Suits now that it's popular again?" And she was like, "Maybe Megan will show up. No one knows. We don't text her."
Well, I imagine it's probably harder to get in touch with a duchess than it is to get in touch with like the third lead on this show.
Yeah,
true. Although, I mean, she lives in California. Pretty sure they live in L.A.
Yeah.
There's celebrities all over LA. It really is a wild place.
This is true.
But yeah, no, I think she got a bad nose job.
My random question today, because we are on the eve of not even the eve. This is the day it starts. The NCAA tournament.
The eve of the hours.
Yes. We're almost at 0 hour. In fact, we're almost 2 hours from tip off in Dayton between Howard and Wagner in the Evil Boss and Death of a Salesman Bowl.
Wow.
Fired Willie Loman, man.
He did fire Willie Loman.
Anyhow, give me both your best and your worst. Maybe not like just a great moment in bracket prognostication and a moment that made you swear you would never fill out another bracket. Your best and worst, your high and your low moment in picking games.
I put several $100s on Gonzaga to beat Baylor 3 years ago. In the national championship game.
Yeah, I was on that too. I thought Drew Timme would just be too much for Baylor. And then Corey Kispert showed up trembling like a 12-year-old child to that game.
Yeah, I lost a lot of money in that game. It took me quite a while to dig out of that hole. I'm not going to lie. That's the worst. I'm trying to think of other bad ones I've had over time. This wasn't me, but here's a great story. So when I was... Yeah, I'm sure people listening back home love to hear this. When I was in high school, I ran a bracket pool.
Okay.
And I held the cash. It was, $10, $20, whatever. And we got a good number of people in it. I mean, the pot was several $100s by the time we were graduating. The year that Florida Gulf Coast won 2 games, when they made it to the Sweet 16, there was one guy, Alex, was in our group. Alex, good guy, Air Force pilot now, by the way. He just wanted to fill it out with all the contrarian picks. Like, no, this is the year that 2 15 seeds make it to the Sweet 16.
Sure.
Like, no, a 1 seed is going to lose this year. I'm going to have 4 6 seeds in my Final Four. Like that. That's what he was doing. Clearly not going to win. He correctly predicted both Florida Gulf Coast wins. He got both.
He was all over Dunk City.
He still finished like 18th out of 25 in the pool despite doing that. Where normally, what did they play in the first round? It was Florida, right?
No, it was Georgetown.
Georgetown. Oh, yeah, I picked Georgetown, I think, is the Elite Eight that year. I bet on the wrong John Thompson III horse so many times. To lose pools. But yeah, he hit both of those, and I still have the bracket somewhere. I kept it because I was so amazed. So that was the best I've ever been close to. I don't have any great ones.
The best that I have ever done, although it was unofficial, it was a secondary bracket. It wasn't the bracket that I was.
The bracket of integrity. It wasn't the integrity bracket.
Yes, it was the secondary bracket I made.
Sure.
Right before tip off one day. I had Furman beating UVA.
Hey.
Oh, just last year.
Yeah.
You had that one too.
I won money on that game. Yeah.
And then last year, my national champion, I thought the whole darn year that Gonzaga was going to win the ship.
They did not.
No, they just completely walloped.
So my proudest moment. One year I did win a bracket pool. It was 2018. I correctly predicted a Michigan-Villanova national championship game.
There you go.
Kansas in the Final Four as well. So that's the best I've ever done, like in terms of a full bracket. One of the picks I am proudest of back in 2011, I jumped on the Kenneth Faried and Morehead State bandwagon before anyone else and loudly told anyone who would listen they were going to beat Louisville, and they did in their first round game. And then I said the Nuggets should draft Kenneth Faried, and they did. I was very right about Kenneth Faried, pretty much up and down. I was an early adopter on the Manimal train. Also, the year that Giddy Potts and Middle Tennessee sniped Michigan State, I had them winning the championship.
I knew a lot of people picked Michigan State to win that one that year. Just like Arizona last year.
I also believe I picked Arizona to win last year, and they lost to future investment bankers from Princeton. Also, 2012, had Duke winning. They lost to Lehigh.
Lehigh beat Duke. I've shared this story on the air before, I think every single year, but it's one of my favorite memories. I was in high school. I was a sophomore in high school, and it was either Thursday or Friday. I don't remember. It was that Louisville game, though. And we were in the computer lab in French class. I don't know why. That seems like a weird thing to do, but we were. And we were just watching games. We had CBS.com up, and we were just watching games all day, my buddies and I, and like openly cheering. Finally, right before class ends, our teacher walks over, and he's like, "What are you guys doing? You're supposed to be studying. You're supposed to be doing these worksheets online, whatever." We're like, "No, Sam, you don't get it. Louisville is in trouble. There's a minute left. Morehead State's about to pull this off." And he's like supposed to be doing tests or like administering tests or whatever, pulls over a chair and goes, "Oh no, I have Louisville winning the whole thing." And he sits down and watches the end of the game with us, just burying his head in his hands when the game goes final.
Shared experience, man.
All-time great.
It's the monoculture.
Your random question.
My random question is, what celebrity has ever liked a tweet that you have done? This goes back to last night. So Sunday night and Monday night, ID aired this docuseries called Quiet on Set about Nickelodeon and the stuff that went down during kids shows like Drake and Josh and stuff. Well, Drake Bell came out last night and said that something happened to him with somebody that was close to Dan Schneider, the owner or the creator of Drake and Josh, blah, blah, blah. So I tweeted last night, to think we were all enjoying Drake and Josh as kids, but Drake Bell was dealing with all that internally, and he still put out a great show. And he liked the tweet.
He was name searching.
I guess so. He's really trying to figure out what people were talking about him during this documentary where he, spoke about something he's never spoken about, which serious topic, but like he liked my tweet randomly, didn't add him. He was searching himself. Has there been any times where a celebrity has liked a tweet you guys have tweeted?
I once insulted LeGerald Vick, and he name searched and found it.
I insulted Kevin Pillar once. You remember Kevin Pillar?
Yeah, of course.
Former Toronto Blue Jay, Colorado Rocky, great Kevin Pillar. Yeah, I once said his nose was the third biggest city in the province of Ontario, and he found that tweet and liked it. He's got a big nose, man.
Dang.
Yeah, I was super mean. I don't know why I tweeted.
Extremely mean.
I was during the American League Championship Series when they were playing the Royals.
Dang.
That was super mean. I don't know why I did that, and I don't know why he liked it. Also, I got in a Twitter beef with Smash Mouth once, but that's a whole other thing.
That was very funny. I remember.
Didn't you tell me you were going to tell me that story on our way to Omaha, but we never went to Omaha?
I guess
we're not going to Omaha.
Yeah, hang on to that one.
Yeah, we'll hold the story of the time I got in a Twitter beef with Smash Mouth for another time.
Man, I'm trying to think any celebrity who did. I know we had a bunch that did. We were one of the first people, well, because I was there at the Snoop Dogg late night at Allen Fieldhouse. Yeah. I was one of the first people to tweet out video of the acrobatic dancers on the poles on Allen Fieldhouse. And we had a bunch of celebrities and sports people like and share that tweet. We had well over 1 million views on that one. Yeah, that's probably the one.
Mentions were a wild place for a few days after that.
Oh, they were. I also once screenshotted and shared a picture from Jair Alexander's dad's Instagram after he got his contract extension. It was like, I don't know. It had a bunch of curse words in it and was talking about his son getting paid, and he was very excited. And a bunch of Packers liked it. So I figured, I think Ja's dad has well liked in the locker room. But yeah, that's the closest I can think of.
I posted a video of the time that the Colorado mascot shot himself in the groin region with the t-shirt cannon. Had the t-shirt cannon the wrong way and right in the gonads and went down, and I yanked the video and I posted it on my Twitter account, and one of the Duplass brothers liked it along with like 18,000 other people.
Really?
Yes.
Huh. Was it the one who got in trouble for 9/11?
No.
Or his conversations about 9/11?
I don't think so.
He was not involved in 9/11.
No, you're thinking of the guy from the league. The other guy from the league.
Yeah, isn't his last name Duplass?
No, that was somebody else. That was a different guy. That was Kevin from the league. No, there was a Duplass on the league. It was the other Duplass who liked the tweet.
Yeah, Mark Duplass. That's who I'm thinking of.
Oh, then it was the other one.
I think this is who I was thinking of.
No, it was the guy who played, it was the taller guy from the league who said something about, yeah, I was at 9/11. And they were like, actually, no, you weren't. He said, yeah, I don't know why I lied about that.
Why did you do that? Oh, my gosh. That's going to do it for Random Question Tuesday. Coming up next, Matt Norlander of CBS Sports. He got the favorite artist for every head coach in the NCAA tournament. We'll break down some of the best ones next on 580 Sports Talk. 580 Sports Talk continues from Prairie Band Sportsbook at Prairie Band Casino and Resort in Mayetta. We're here throughout the show today. We'll take you right into the first four coming up tonight. Awesome place to watch a game, by the way. I'm so excited to see this place fill up for the games tonight. Both Wagner versus Howard and Colorado State versus Virginia coming up tonight. We'll pick the first four coming up a little bit later on in the show. Matt Norlander of CBS Sports posted earlier on today the full field of 68. Every single head coach, he heard from them and got their favorite musical artist and then put it back together in bracket form. There's a handful of really funny things that were included in this. Number one, John Calipari said he doesn't listen to music. Like, even a couple guys said, yeah, I only really listen in like social settings, and
So at the game,
yeah,
like at
game.
work, like
right,
the warm up music
during practice, or at weddings. Someone said they're either the best or worst wedding guest ever, depending on your taste. John Calipari said he just doesn't listen to music, which is insane. But he picked Drake for this, probably because Drake is a Kentucky fan.
I was about to say he's probably met Drake.
He's hung out with Drake.
Yeah, like that's a recruiting tool at that point. Mark Pope, legitimately a Swiftie. Like, he gave his five favorite songs to Matt Norlander. I did not recognize all of them. There were a couple I knew. For real, I did not know where his. I've never heard the song Cornelia Street in my life.
No.
New Year's Day, Karma, All Too Well, Cruel Summer. I know those. I've never heard the song Cornelia Street in my life.
Does he have young daughters by chance? Teenage daughters, perhaps?
He might. That's certainly possible. Certainly plausible. Also, Will Wade and Bill Self both picked Earth, Wind, and Fire as their favorite acts. As you know, those two teams might play each other in the second round of this year's NCAA tournament. Will Wade was told that. Matt Norlander said, hey, you and Bill Self, you guys might play each other, and you picked the same artist. And he said, and I quote, wow, not all we have in common. Obviously referring to the NCAA allegations.
That's a strong ass quote.
I unironically love Will Wade for that. Like, he was just spitting in the face of the NCAA the entire time. It was awesome. I had other people who I saw said some of the funniest ones. Kyle Smith from Washington State. The Digital Underground was his pick. This man is getting down to the Humpty Dance.
Oh my God.
I think that was maybe the guy who said he doesn't listen a lot on his own, but does in social settings. He said, my music taste ended in 1992, which is also a great quote.
Yes.
The Digital Underground rules. That's a great pick.
Yes.
Andy Kennedy at UAB picked Bob Marley. There's a lot of Luke Combs. You are in very good company here, Spencer. There's a lot of Luke Combs.
See, what I like to pick out are the coaches that are obviously lying. Like, Dusty May does not drive home and put on the latest Rod Wave album. Like, I don't believe that for 1 second.
I don't either.
Do you think Herbert Davis listens to Lil Durk?
Do I think Hubert Davis listens to Lil Durk? No, I don't. I think he is lying. I think that is what are my players listening to in the locker room? I'll just say him. Who else do I think is lying on their answer? There are some groups I've never heard of in my life. Like, who is Sanctus Real?
I believe that's
Alford's favorite band.
I believe that is a praise music group.
There are two coaches who say their favorite musical artist in the year of our Lord 2024 is Toby Mac.
Yes. Both Bryce Drew at Grand Canyon. His brother is Scott. Like, that one I actually get a lot.
That tracks.
I did not know that about Nate Oates. I did not know he got down with Toby Mac. That was brand new to me.
Huge shout out to Bucky McMillan with the Sam Cooke choice.
Yeah, he told Matt Norlander, that's Sanford's head coach.
Yes.
He told Matt Norlander, I'm an old soul. And he's like, you might think he's over 60. No, he's not even 40.
Rick Barnes, a big Carrie Underwood fan.
Yeah, that was big. I'm reconsidering everything I've ever said badly about Rick Barnes. He picked Sunday Night Carrie, which is a big win for me. Also very believable. Some of these, like, oh yeah, no, I could totally guess that.
Of course, like John Shire being a Drake fan, like that adds up.
Like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, So Far Gone came out when he was in college. Yeah,
both
that adds up.
Both Richard Pitino and Who else was it? Someone else picked Chris Jans. They both picked Dave Matthews Band. That could not possibly be more on brand for either of them. Here's a fun fact. I hate Dave Matthews Band. Like, there is not a single song by DMB you could put on and be like, oh, isn't this a jam? No, it's all, I hate all of it. Every single song. I hate it. I cannot stand Dave Matthews Band.
I recently did a bit of a critical re-understanding on Dave Matthews Band. And the critical understanding that I came to was, I still don't really like him.
No, I don't. I don't like it at all. Like, congratulations if you're still 40-something and wish you were getting high on your frat house porch with your frat brothers. Like, that's who that music is for. I can't stand it.
So, jam bands for people who don't really like jam bands.
TJ Osberger.
Jam bands for people with trust funds.
TJ Osberger's a big Ed Sheeran fan, so he's like a love story kind of
guy.
guy.
That one was way out of left field to me.
I think he's lying. That's a lie.
But why would you lie about listening to Ed Sheeran? Like,
because he's one of the biggest artists in the world. Like, I don't know. I just
like an
he
artist
thinks his team's perfect.
Like an artist your players like, and you're trying to use it like, oh look, I'm cool. Listen, how do you do?
Like Pat Kelsey
kids?
with Jay-Z.
Yeah, like I get that, but why would you lie about Ed Sheeran? Dana Altman picked the Eagles. Like, yeah, of course. Matt Painter, Zach Brown Band, that fits.
Florida coach Todd Golden picking Sublime is very funny.
Who is listening to Sublime these days? Like, who is Sublime still for?
Who is Hillsong?
They're also praise music.
Yeah, okay. That's like the church, I think.
Yeah, they have a whole church. Like, their whole thing is they do.
That is Griff Aldrich, the head coach at Longwood. Are they affiliated, private school affiliated with, or are they just, or are they a public school?
No, I think Longwood's private.
They're public?
They're public?
I almost went there.
They are public.
How about that?
Farmville, Missouri.
I didn't almost go there. That's
Virginia.
A lie. I almost went to Radford.
The Highlanders.
Yeah.
Not the Lancers. Greg McDermott being a Jimmy Buffett guy, that adds up.
Tracks, yeah.
Rodney Terry being a Michael Jackson fan. A little Michael Jackson. A couple Michael Jackson. A couple Tupac.
Tad Boyle claims he's a Beatles fan. That's his number one, the Beatles. I don't get down with I respect their contributions to popular music. I don't get down with the Beatles. Again, who's just bopping to Eleanor Rigby in 2024? Like, who throws that on? It's like, yes, White Album, please. Who is doing that these days? If I'm in the wrong here, please let me know. But I don't know who is doing that still. I can't see that. Also, there's a lot of Pearl Jam involved here.
Yeah, look, that coaches are getting younger. Like, coaches are starting to be like in their like 40s.
Yeah.
More coaches in their 40s now like grew up with that.
Yeah. Dads.
So that's like those used to be like the AC/DC or, your Tom Petty answers, your classic rock answers. Now the classic rock answer is Pearl Jam.
Do you have thoughts about that, Dan?
I like Pearl Jam a lot.
I like Pearl Jam too. I'm a big fan. Other ones from the Big 12, by the way, Jamie Dixon picked Tim McGraw. That fits. Yeah. Rodney Terry picked Michael Jackson. I think you mentioned that one already. That also very much fits. Any other good ones that stood out to you? A lot of Tupac.
Yeah, Shaka Smart and Lamont Paris, which, again, age appropriate. Like, yeah.
Sounds right to me.
Yeah.
Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk, live from Prairie Band Sportsbook here in Mayetta. We'll get to some more from the NCAA tournament. Michael Swain is going to join us. We've got today's What Is Wrong With You. Still taking your texts on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429, and your comments on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube feed as well. Back after the news right here on 580 Sports Talk. now 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk going up on this Tuesday afternoon. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, all joining you from Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta at Prairie Band Casino and Resort. Just 20 minutes north of the capital city, up 75 Highway, get off on 150th Road. Just turn left if you're coming up from the capital city, and it's just another 2 or 3 minutes down the road, right inside the main lobby. Just go through the front door, look to your right. It is impossible to miss the Sportsbook. We are here all the way until 6 o'clock today. We'll take you right into the opening 4 play-in games of the Men's College Basketball National Tournament today. We'll talk some tournament bracket action coming up here in just a few moments. Also in this 4 o'clock hour of the show, we've got today's What Is Wrong With You, and we will hear from Michael Swain of Fog.net for today's Jayhawk Weekly. Michael joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Your texts are welcome on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. And head over to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk, and you can find the live video stream today as well. But before we get to the bracket itself, we are now joined by Kyle Sipe, who is the sportsbook manager here at Prairie Band Sportsbook at the casino. Kyle, thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for having us today. And I know we're super excited about the games beginning tonight, and I know you guys are too here at Prairie Band.
Yep, absolutely. Appreciate you guys coming out. Obviously, this Thursday marks kind of our big event of the year. Going to offer Hoops Madness. Basically, these seats in here, we're going to be reserved. We're going to have 2 sessions, morning and night. With the seating package, you will get $20 in free play, $25 free bet, and $25 in food. So with your seating purchase, we're going to give you $70 in value. If you got to work during the day, you can't get out of there, we have night sessions, we have morning sessions. So just take your pick for the first 4 days of the tournament.
Yeah, it's going to be such an awesome setup and different price levels as well for the different sessions and all that. And additionally, we've been talking about it all week leading up to this, last week too, and it's been the code to get free bets here today. Tell us a little bit about Parlay Your Way and what that promotion includes.
Yeah, Parlay Your Way, we started this March. We're really trying to work on building our parlay set in-house here. So 4-leg minimum parlay, $5 minimum, plus 100 odds. We will have 2 all-inclusive Sporting KC Enter Miami tickets. That will come with 2 Kingdom Club passes. Be all-inclusive food and beverage for that big game at Arrowhead. Along with that package, we're going to give away a $500 free bet. So unlimited entries, any $5 ticket, 4-leg minimum, bring it in. Show it to us at the sportsbook counter. We'll get you entered for that drawing.
And we were just talking on the show yesterday. A lot of other books you want to, do promotions or, giveaways or whatever. You have to go with way longer odds than plus 100. That's an incredible value. Like you can go check anywhere else. You're not getting plus 100 as a minimum anywhere else.
Yeah. We're just, we're new. We're trying to get people out here. We're really focusing on this being an experience in here. So really pushing for that.
No, I mean, it's always such a great experience being up here. We're the casino. We can see through the windows over here, all the concerts that are going on up here. And I was asking you before we went on, what have these first couple of months been like since you guys opened up back in late January? What has the growth been like here at the book?
Oh, it's been great. Traffic steadily increased. January was pretty rough weather-wise, but as the sports calendar has kind of ramped up, we're seeing our volumes increase and really excited about it.
And this is really, Kyle, the first of the major events. You have the Super Bowl, but that's one game. And that's an easy one thing to pay attention to, or the one game at a time that you get in the playoffs. To really capture the energy in a place like this, March Madness is such a big time for a sports book. So I got to imagine there's a lot of excitement in seeing like a vision realized when this tournament pops up.
Oh, 1,000%. And as you guys can see, our space is quaint here, so when it really gets ramped up, this room is, you say excitement. It absolutely is.
Yeah. And I mean, We've got the 7 TVs over here to my right, 8. If I could count, that would be even better. We've got the 8 over here to my right. We've got the ones up behind me here too. And I would imagine, because we're here during the day most of the time, we're super excited to be leading into the tournament games coming up tonight for a big game for whatever it is, playoff football, major college basketball, whatever. I would imagine, especially in a more intimate setting, this place gets rocking for these big games.
1,000%. You can't be any closer to the betting counter. We're right next to Ember's Bar and Grill, in-seat wait service, food and beverage. It's all you can ask for in here.
And talking about experience too, and I was mentioning all the other stuff around here. I've talked to my wife about this plenty already. Like, come make a weekend out of this. Like, come up here, tournament this weekend. There's the spa downstairs, the indoor, the outdoor pool, obviously the casino. There's concerts all the time. Make this an experience. It is an awesome place to come up here, especially when the construction over here is done as well. Going to be even more all-inclusive.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
We're super excited about it.
I am a little curious. We've talked about the growth of it. You started to see the increase in traffic. What are people liking to play? Where are you finding the most action from the people who've come in? Just out of curiosity.
This is college basketball country.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, college basketball has been carrying our flag since kind of the end of the NFL season. So, yeah, we're ready to ramp up even more for March.
I imagine in the last couple of days, and certainly the next couple, probably expecting a lot of Kansas Jayhawks action, if I had to guess.
Yeah, fair amount.
Mine included, fairly enough.
It might be in a different direction you'd expect.
That's true.
But there is action there.
That's true. Well, Kyle Sipe, he is the sportsbook manager here at Prairie Band. Kind enough to have us out today. It's been so much fun. And again, swing on by. I think we've still got a couple of free bets possibly to hand out here. So we're here until 6 o'clock today. If you come in, all you have to do is give the code parlay your way at the counter right to my right. The fine folks here at Prairie Band will hook you up with a $10 free bet. That's all you have to do. All you have to do is say parlay your way. Kyle, thank you so much for having us out here, and thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it, guys.
That's Kyle Sipe. He is the sportsbook manager here at Prairie Band Sportsbook at the casino in Mayetta. Again, we're here until 6 o'clock. Games tip off at 5:40 tonight, so we will be here leading you directly into game action tonight. We're super excited to be here throughout the day on 580 Sports Talk. I did want to ask you guys bracket-wise, because we were going through some of our favorite picks, and we'll give some final thoughts tomorrow and Thursday, and we'll pick the first 4 games going on tonight as well. When you're putting it together, how do you build your bracket? Are you the I am always focusing on who shoots free throws the best? Because that was me for like 10 years. That was always how I picked it. Is it like I'm just going to pick who Ken Pom favors in every one? I assume you're probably not picking based on mascots, but
no,
maybe. I don't know.
Not a mascot or a color based picker. My thing has always been, I like the numbers. I like to look at Ken Pom and other predictive metrics and try and lean in that direction. But there are things that you trust when you get to March, and there are things that you don't trust. And so I lean heavily towards teams that I trust are teams that are veteran teams, especially the last couple of years. It was really a big storyline last year that the teams that advanced deep were really old teams. Like their average age in terms that was weighted for playing time. You had teams that averaging 21, 22 years old. Florida Atlantic, really old team, made the Final Four. Kansas State was a pretty old team last year, made the Elite Eight. San Diego State, I think, was the oldest team in the field. They went to the national championship game. So age, experience. In this era of college basketball, I think that really does matter. So I look at age, particularly when it comes to guards, handling the pressure with the ball in your hands in crucial moments. And then there are the things you don't trust. I don't trust young backcourts. I don't trust teams that are really heavily leaning on players or coaches who haven't been in this moment before. And there are certain programs who have a history in this tournament that make me not really willing to trust them or pick them deep into the tournament. Iowa State is one of those. Purdue is one of those. Rick Barnes, whoever he's coaching, is one of those coaches. I mean, because this is a system that has taken some refinement. There was a time that I used to trust Steve Alford, and now I would sooner drink lead paint than pick Steve Alford to win a tournament game.
Yeah, I think
I have Nevada winning
too.
Fade Nevada, fade them so hard.
I think one of my things that goes into it is if a team constantly chokes.
Yeah,
that's
Rick Barnes.
Yeah, like just constantly choking, like UVA, for instance. Like I don't give them a chance in this playing game tomorrow.
They're such a funny program. Like, they have the national championship. You can't take that away. They were very old when they won that national championship. But outside of that, like, they really only have that one moment, and you can't take it away, and banners fly forever and all that, but they've been a really bad tournament team. Otherwise, they lost to a 16 the year before. We remember what happened last year when they completely gagged it away against Furman.
With a senior guard making a bonehead play in the final seconds.
Like a mega super ultra senior guard. K.A. Clark was there when Ralph Sampson was there. Like, you should not be making those kinds of mistakes in those moments. That is something that it took me a long time to learn, but I have finally learned. Just, if you've never trusted a team before, it is worth it to get burned by them having a rare one-off outlier moment. Mm-hmm. That's why, like I said earlier, I used to pick Georgetown to go deep in the tournament every year. I don't know why. I always like, no, this is the year Georgetown doesn't embarrass me.
And then they never would.
And then they would proceed to once again embarrass me.
When I talk about the metrics, and I'm curious, because I know you follow Ken Palm, you got some other metrics that you take a look at. I'm always looking at the offense and defense numbers. And I think you have to be good at both to make a deep run, but not every team is good at both. Many teams are good at one and average to sometimes bad at the other. I will trust a team that can score it and not guard great more so than I will trust the team that guards great but can't score it. So
I would agree with that.
For example, like Illinois is 93rd in adjusted defense in Ken Palm, but they're third in offense. Mm-hmm. Alabama is second in adjusted offense, but they're 112th in defense. I think Illinois' path is a little bit more manageable than Alabama's, but like I would say, okay, those teams, they can win a shootout. Kentucky is a team that I really like this year, picking to the Elite Eight. 5th in offense, 108th in defense. The flip side of that, the teams that are really good on offense and not so good on defense, Iowa State, 55th in offense, first on defense.
Really good defense, not offense.
Yes, really good defense, not on offense. Michigan State, 8th in defense, 57th in offense. San Diego State, 9th in defense, 62nd in offense. I don't trust those teams quite as much. I think that there is a track record of some teams that are the elite defensive teams having success, but those were also teams like when Virginia did ultimately win it all, it wasn't because their defense carried them. They also had the best offense in the country that year.
Yeah, they're the most efficient offense in the entire country.
So, yeah, I tend to trust dudes and putting the ball in the basket. Like if I'm confused on a game, I just ask myself, who's got more of the best players in this matchup?
Do you ever pick it or change a pick based on, wow, I don't have nearly enough upsets? Because I do. And that's not smart, but I do that.
I can say I've done that a time or two.
I was sitting next to my wife who was doing hers last night, and she's going through. So she has a very conflicting matchup. Well, not super conflicting, but Drake plays Washington State in the 7-10 game.
Yes. She's Coug, right?
She went to Washington State, spent most of her life in Pullman, Washington. That's where she moved there, I think, when she was 8, went to school there. Her dad was a professor at Washington State. Do you know where he was a professor before Washington State?
Would it be Drake?
Drake. She grew up before that in Des Moines, Iowa. So a very, family tied in game there. And she straight up asked me, did you pick Drake? And I said, I actually did, but it's not because I actually think they're better than Washington State. That's the only upset I have in that region. I had chalk in every other pick, and that seems wrong. I can't do that. So I had to pick one that seemed plausible. So I went with Tucker DeVries and I went with Drake, even though I didn't like it. So I will do that.
I also picked Drake.
Drake.
I think they're going to have the best player in that game. Like those 8-9s, 7-10s, sometimes I just go with, okay, who's the best player in this matchup? And I genuinely think Tucker DeVries, with all due respect to Miles Rice, who's a very good player for Washington State, Tucker DeVries, I think, is the best player in that game. So I'll lean with Drake.
Speaking of...
Also, Drake went to the tournament last year, and they got some scar tissue because they blew a late lead.
Yes, they did.
Washington State hasn't been to the tournament since... It's been a long time.
I missed that one.
Pre-Klay Thompson, the last time Washington State was in the tournament.
Yeah, Tony Bennett was still their head coach.
Yeah.
I was going to say, too, C.J. Moore mentioned on Thursday's show last week during the Big 12 breakdown, he was hearing Dan DeVries as a possible candidate for Oklahoma State. There has been a lot more smoke about that in the last 24 hours. And he said if you get Dan DeVries, Tucker's got one more year of eligibility. Ooh. So if you get Dan, you get Tucker. And Tucker DeVries is awesome. Yes. He is a really good player, has been for a long time. I wouldn't hate that for Oklahoma State. I mean, I don't want them to be good. I want fewer hard games in the Big 12, obviously. But no, Dan DeVries is a good coach. Tucker DeVries is a really good player. Yeah, that's how I put it together, though. And granted, I don't win all that often. I think I've won twice in my entire life, and both times were the years where KU won the national title. I think those are the only two that I've ever ended up winning. No, I take that back. I won a third time in 2012 because KU made it to the national championship game.
Sure.
So pretty much my brackets normally just rely on my alma mater.
Rides on
going
how
far.
well Kansas does. No, I can totally understand that.
By the way, real quick, speaking of the color thing, and that's what Susan from accounting does. Everyone makes that joke. Like, I spent 18 hours building my bracket. She spent 5 minutes, and I lost to her in our pool. Here's a fun fact for you. Do you know the last team that wore purple to win a national championship?
The last team that wore purple to win a national championship. Let's see. Washington's never done it. K-State's never done it. Northwestern's never done it. James Madison's never done it.
Nope.
Never?
No, it has happened.
Oh, it has? Okay. Oh,
Yes.
okay. Not
None of our
Evansville.
parents were alive.
Oh.
We were barely into the baby boomer generation.
What?
1947. Holy
Oh,
cross.
holy crap. I was about to say, is it CCNY? Like,
No.
Cross. Okay.
76 consecutive tournaments where a school that wears purple did not win the championship. By the way, only one team, one school has even made a Final Four since the tournament expanded that wears purple. Can you name that team? It's the same program, and they've done it twice.
who made the Final Four?
It made the Final Four that wears purple.
That wears purple.
It is not Kansas State,
No.
obviously.
No, their last one is in 64. Since when now?
Since the tournament expanded in 1985.
Since it expanded in 85.
This team has made it twice. No other purple schools have.
LSU?
It is LSU. They've gone twice, 86 and 06.
By the way, you know who was on that Holy Cross team that won it all in 47, right?
In 47, no.
I have no clue.
Bob Cousy.
No! I probably could have guessed that.
Do you know who that is?
No.
Spencer? Okay.
Wow. I mean, I know who Bob Cousy is. I think of him mostly as
Boston
an NBA
Celtic,
player,
one of the great like early era NBA players, point guard.
The Point Guard of the Year award is named for Bob Cousy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Still alive.
I've heard of it, but I've heard of his name, but I didn't know.
Know who he was. He's still alive?
Yes, he's still alive. And
Good for
I
him.
think could probably shoot 85% from the free throw line still to this day.
Probably. I love watching highlights of old basketball because everything is so rudimentary compared to today, except passing. Passing back then still, I mean, there's only so many ways you can give the ball to a teammate.
Bob Cousy was blowing people's minds. Like, he
Yeah.
dribbled behind his back once, and everybody at the Boston Garden fainted and thought it was a witch.
Oh, my God.
All those guys he was playing against for the Rochester Royals who worked at the box factory were just aghast. You could do that?
We haven't heard a Box Factory reference in a long time. 95 years old, by the way, Bob Cousy. He'll turn 96 in August. Good for him. Coming up next, we've got today's What Is Wrong With You, and then we'll talk to Michael Swain for our Jayhawk Weekly from Fog.net coming up later on this hour here on 580 Sports Talk.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
It was green. That might have been what froze it. Something happened with connection. I'm frozen in time.
It's a lot of us. Why?
Yeah.
What is wrong with you time here on 580 Sports Talk? Brendan, Dan, Spencer, all with you from Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta. Steve Ollinghouse back at the 580 Studios on Huntington Hill, running the board for us on the show today.
No longer frozen.
Yeah, Spencer's frozen. We also just had to close up the
Just had all of me on camera. I apologize. That may have cost us subscribers and views.
I don't know. We're breaking records here on
I'm like
Twitter.
lights on my camera too.
Dan and cameras just don't work with the light these days.
Nah, man, I'm just shining. I'm always
But
shining.
we're breaking records here on Twitter.
Yeah, a lot of people you got stream over on 580 AM.
104.9 FM today. Our week so far, what is wrong with you? In-person threat from yesterday. 2 news stories going head to head today. I am going to go first here. I would argue, guys, that if I was going to be pulled over or arrested for something, I would probably not insult the police officer who was going to do the arrest or tell them how much I hated them. That probably isn't going to help me a whole lot.
Yeah, I don't think so.
A 35-year-old Florida woman, though, she did exactly that. She allegedly flipped off a deputy and yelled that she, quote, hates police during an attempt to pull her over for erratically driving over some grass over the weekend. Darla Vidal was arrested on 1 felony count of resisting an officer and a misdemeanor count of resisting an officer, according to the Monroe County, Florida Sheriff's Office. This began at 2:25 on a Saturday when a deputy observed Vidal driving her car on the grass at a high rate of speed on Key Deer Boulevard. The deputy attempted to pull her over, but she allegedly did not stop and instead continued to swerve from the road to the grass. She also then gave the middle finger to the deputy attempting to pull her over. She nearly hit a deer with her car before she stopped on Pensacola Road and ran toward the deputy, screaming that she, quote, hates the police, while refusing orders to stop. She also allegedly urged the deputy to shoot her while she was pulling away and resisting arrest. It is unknown if she was on drugs.
She's having a bad day.
Maybe. I would say so. Again, probably not the thing to do to upset the person who is arresting you. That would be an issue, in my opinion. But again, I've never been on What Is Wrong With You.
Why was she driving on the grass in the first place? I guess I don't
know.
Understand what possessed her to start with that.
Clearly not trying to avoid things, since she also already almost hit a deer. So I have a hard time imagining why there would be any reason for that. But again, I don't live in Florida, so hard to say.
Quite the overreaction, I believe, from that lady. All right, for my story, we're going to meet some cat burglars from East Haven, Connecticut. And by cat burglars, I don't mean cat burglar like they come in the dark of the night and are very sneaky and steal things. No, I mean like these people tried to steal a cat. 2 suspects who broke into a home and attempted to steal a cat on Sunday afternoon. Now, I'm a cat person. My wife and I have 2 cats. Mm-hmm. I grew up with cats. I understand that not everybody is a cat person, but also understand that you might not be the kind of person that cats like, and maybe that's a you problem because cats like me and always have. And my 2 cats like me very much. Well, at least one of them does. Annie tolerates me. Zoe loves me. Anyhow, I like cats. So this story annoyed me to read about somebody trying to steal a cat. Officers respond to a home on Thompson Street in East Haven around 3:45 p.m. after receiving a 911 call from a resident who reported a home invasion had just taken place. The victim told police two males tried to get in through a rear slider door, and as they attempted to keep the suspects out, one kicked through the glass.
Oh.
Once inside, the suspects pulled out guns and demanded the resident's cat, which was, quote, high dollar value. This is apparently a very expensive cat.
I guess so.
The suspects searched the house for the cat for several minutes. Did they look under the bed?
Come on. Come on. Now.
Before a resident fought them off, and the pair took off in a blue BMW without ever finding the cat. I bet it was under the bed. Detectives were able to track the BMW to nearby Hamden, where the vehicle was seized and processed for evidence. Investigators determined this was not a random incident, but a targeted attack between people who know each other. They said they are following several leads. The incident remains under investigation. Police said they do not know what breed of cat the owners have or what makes it valuable.
I mean, that cat better be made of gold if I'm going to break into a house to try to steal
Like
it.
high dollar value, like, I don't know. Again, it could have been like a bred, like certain breed of cat that is like literally expensive, or maybe it's like an Instagram famous cat. I have joked with my wife, like I have enough funny pictures of Zoe in my phone that like I feel like we could get maybe Instagram famous, get like an endorsement deal with IAMS or something off the strength of some of the pictures I have of our cats. They are very photogenic and they are very funny. The other night we stripped the bed, washed the sheets. We took the sheets out of the dryer, dumped them on the bed. Yeah, we'll make that later. Bad idea. Bad idea if you own a cat, because we come in and to make the bed, and Zoe is in the middle of the pile of sheets like it is a throne, and she is the queen of Laundry Mountain. That happens all the time.
So
like, I feel
I'll
like
tell you what.
I feel like I can monetize that.
Yeah, there are some cats that can cost upwards of $75,000 to $125,000.
Jeez. I looked up this list from Reader's Digest, which has some cats between 6,000 to 20,000. Maybe it's a Sphinx. Those are ugly. Those are hairless.
The
Those are
hairless
gross.
cat? Yeah, I don't.
An Ashira is $75,000 to $125,000. Peter Bald is $1,700 to $3,000. A Savannah is $25,000.
Wowza.
Why do you have a $25,000 cat?
I don't know.
Why
Yeah.
would you pay that much for a pet?
I don't know, man.
I don't know. You can get a mutt for like $100.
Yeah,
at
you
the
just
pound.
like
yeah,
go adopt.
adopt, don't shop. Let's remember that.
Yeah.
All right, so who gets the win today? We've got the woman who flipped off and cursed at the police while she was being arrested for erratically driving, or two people who had some sort of personal beef with this cat and tried to steal it.
What do you think, Swain?
I don't know. These are two like odd stories.
Yeah, they're very strange today.
Why are you stealing a cat?
That one seems very personal. Like, I can't imagine it's the cat that's the problem. Like, this feels like they were trying to hurt the people
Cat didn't do
specifically.
anything, and clearly these people weren't really concerned. Like, if they were real cat people, they would have immediately looked under the bed, and they would have found the cat.
They just saw dollar signs.
Clearly. Who do you got?
That's tough. I just love the idea of stealing a high dollar value cat. That's like a very funny concept to me.
Yeah, that is a very funny concept. I'll go with that one today. I don't think either of these stories beats yesterday's winner, though.
No, the in-person bomb
no.
threat.
No.
The guy walked over to the airport and was like, hey,
You're next.
Stop spraying me with your chemtrails or I'm going to blow you up.
Yeah, that's going to win again
The
today.
personal touch. Yeah, that really does.
That wins today in What Is Wrong With You. We will transition that back to the NCAA tournament. Coming up on the other side of this break, Michael Swain from Fog.net and 24/7 Sports is going to join us for Jayhawk Weekly. That's coming up right after this on 580 Sports Talk. Joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline is Michael Swain, who covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. He joins us every Tuesday at this time for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Go follow him on Twitter at mswain247, and of course all of his great work at Fog.net. Michael, how excited are you to make the trip to the Great Salt Lake?
I will actually not be making the trip. With the spring football going on, that was kind of a decision we made to stick around and cover basically what's going to end up being a quarter of spring football that takes place in about a span of a week. So I'll be covering it from here, but it should be interesting to see how it plays out for KU. Really interesting first weekend coming up.
Yeah, we'll get to a little spring football here before we round things out. I would imagine, though, even not there, and I brought this up the other day on the show, I guess it was yesterday, right after the selection show. I have a feeling that of this pod that KU is in the Midwest region with Gonzaga, McNeese, and then obviously with Samford, I have a theory that KU is going to be the least popular team of all of them in Salt Lake City because, KU fans will travel decently well, but having been there a couple of years ago when Gonzaga was there, their fans will travel a ton. And neutral fans love to root for the double-digit seeds over the favorites and over the blue bloods. Do you feel the same way, Michael, that KU might be the least popular team in the building this weekend?
Well, you could probably think that. And I still have a feeling that KU fans will travel because I think for some of the ones on the West Coast, right, this could be a little bit more of an accessible trip than maybe in Omaha would be, right? But I think you are right. Like, in terms of you're going to proportion out the teams that are there and then the fans that are there, there will be a big group, I'm sure, rooting for, Samford on Thursday night, especially considering the fact that the Gonzaga game is first, right? So they'll already be in their seats and already be in the arena. So it's not one of those situations where KU's the first game and then fans get in later, right? KU's the one that people will stick around to watch. So it'll be interesting to see, right, what the atmosphere is like. I remember in 2019, that was a really interesting atmosphere to be around as well. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out because I think obviously this team has been decent on neutral floor, not good when the crowd is against them, and really good when the crowd is for them. So, it'll be really interesting to see kind of how that shakes out and how it impacts the performance level.
What do you think of the draw overall for KU? How did this one shake out for the Jayhawks?
Well, I think if you're going to look at styles, right, the old saying, styles make fights, the styles aren't great for KU. You look at what Samford is as a program, they love to go fast. And they play a lot of guys. And I don't know if that fits this Kansas team right now. And obviously there's the 3-point, which we can talk about in a second. But I think just in terms of pace of play, Samford's just going to try and get up and down. Like, they will treat it like an NBA game where they are trying to get the most amount of possession, the most amount of shots possible. So will they give up some shots? Yeah, but they're banking on the fact that they will make, 38% of their threes on the other end of the floor and win the game that way because 3 is greater than 2. So I think that part of it is really interesting because they play 10, 11 guys. Nobody plays more than 26 minutes. So they just rotate fresh bodies throughout the course of the game. And it's such a contrast to what Kansas has been this year, which is, you basically got your 5 starters and, maybe a spurt of bench minutes here and there. So we're really interested to see with someone like McCullar and, the Bone Bruise, how much is he going to be able to play? And if this does turn into a track meet, how much are his legs just going to hold up? And even for someone like Hunter Dickinson, it's a shoulder injury, but he's also someone that, KU has not played a super fast pace this year. So how will he handle the up and down style? And will he still be efficient around the rim? Because KU needs him to be efficient around the rim if KU is going to make up the fact that this is a team that can go crazy from 3. And that's the thing, right? I think it's like 40% of Samford's shots come from 3, and they also do a really good job of getting out in transition and getting to the rim where they're shooting over 55% from 2. So they are one of the most efficient shooting teams. Effective field goal percentage is a good way to measure that, right? They're in the top 10 in the entire nation. So, you're just listing off all these things that they're just things that KU maybe has not been the greatest at. But I'd also say this. Samford wants to get a track meet with KU. That's something that I'm sure Johnny Furphy, KJ Adams, and DeJuan Harris would love because those are guys that are really good when it comes to the open floor and really taking advantage. And I don't think Samford will have the athletes to match KU there.
If you could only have one of the guys who are banged, I mean, a lot of guys are banged up, but the two notable ones, if you could only have one of Dickinson or McCullar for this first game, who would you rather have?
Well, I'd say probably McCullar, because you're talking about a guard-heavy team that is going to push the pace. And if, you look at also what they do, right? I think their center is 6'9" and can really spread it too. So, they will go 5 out. And that, for me, screams KJ Adams at the 5. This is the type of matchup that last year he would have just killed it at. You think about, I think, the Missouri game last year where they had a 6'9" center and KJ was just dominant in that game. So for me, I'd say, having Kevin at 100% is a lot more important for this type of matchup than I think having Hunter Dickinson at 100%.
Our guest is Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline for Jayhawk Weekly, as he does every week at this time on the program. Again, you can check out Michael's work at Fog.net. Subscribe to the 24/7 Sports Network today. You can check him out on Twitter at mswain247. Michael, we've talked all year that this KU team's ceiling remains pretty high given the quality of wins that they had, particularly early in the season, but it's a lower floor, certainly, than we're accustomed to seeing from a Jayhawk team. And that sort of feels like it manifests itself pretty nicely in this draw, because as difficult a matchup as Samford may be for them, and as much as we don't know what the composition of KU's rotation is going to look like yet for Thursday, it also feels like this is a bracket with a 1 and a 2 seed that have a history of underperforming in the NCAA tournament. Their coaches certainly do. And it feels like there's a possibility, if KU can get through Samford, that they could make a real run in this Midwest region. Does it feel the same way to you?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to discount the ceiling of what this KU team can be, right? We've seen them go toe-to-toe with, the best teams in the country and beat the number 1 overall seed in this tournament. So it's one of those deals where, if we were talking right now about a fully healthy KU team, obviously probably a different location, probably different seed number too, but this is a team that when it plays at its best can compete with anybody. And so I think you're right. In the way this season has gone too, guys, if you told me, hey, KU in 3 weeks will be in Phoenix, I'd say, yeah, that would not shock me, just because this team is talented, and if they put it all together, they can beat anybody. But the issue has been, like you mentioned, right, playing to the opponent, the floor bottoming out because of the lack of three-point shooting, guys being hurt. So it's one of those situations where nothing would surprise me, and I think that's what makes the NCAA tournament fun. And sometimes, for KU teams, you could say something would surprise you, but for this team, it's like I just going into this tournament, yep. If you told me any outcome happens, I'd say, yeah, I believe it, because I just think this team is so hard to project because you don't know what you're going to get every night.
Michael Swain, our guest here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline for Jayhawk Weekly. And Michael, if they're able to make a run into the tournament, which secondary player, besides the main guys in Furphy, Dickinson, KJ Adams, Kevin McCullar, which of those secondary guys is going to need to step up big for them in the run?
I don't think any of them, honestly. I look at this team, and I think depth in the NCAA tournament is kind of overrated. The timeouts are going to be, I believe, a minute longer. And so for this team, if I'll play ball with it, I think maybe someone like Nick Timberlake, you think the ability to just come off the bench, provide some pop off the bench with scoring and spacing and all those things. He would probably be the key person that could have that kind of, I don't know if it's going to be quite like Malik Newman, but that type of impact where he just all of a sudden gets hot at the right time and really pushes KU over the top. I think Timberlake is that guy. But look, I think this tournament's going to come down to, can Kansas' best players play their best? Because if they do, KU will be fine. Because that means Kevin McCullar's playing really well, and Hunter Dickinson is playing really well, and someone like Johnny Furphy has found his shot again. I think it comes down to how well those top end guys play. Because if those guys are playing well, it negates the need for other guys to come in and have that impact, or the need to have them make that sort of impact on the floor. So this is the type of team where this starting 5, if they play 35 minutes, it's not going to be the end of the world because those timeouts are longer. And this is a team, too, that I think has that experience now where, for most of them, at least in the NCAA tournament, where they know what it's like to play in these games and how to manage yourself throughout the course of a game. So It's one of those situations where, I don't know if bench is going to be the answer or the thing that changes the course of this tournament for KU. I really do think it's going to come down to, can KU's best 5 players, so they're starting 5, can those guys all play the best? If they do, KU will go far. If they don't, they'll go home.
Michael, how insane is it that the transfer portal is already open and Alabama, which is still playing, they're a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. They play in the next 2 days. How insane is it that they are already adding transfer players for next year?
It's weird, man. It's really weird. And obviously, I think football has the same issue with bowl games, right? And I think the issue you'd say is, hey, Alabama really wasn't losing players to the portal before they played in the college football playoff. Now, adding players is different, right? College basketball is a bit of a different game. And on the one hand, you'd say, great, cool, you got a guy early, but also you don't know what's going to be in the portal in 3 weeks once the NCAA tournament ends and all these good teams finish their season. So it's weird. I feel like generally there is a lot of complaining about the portal period, right? Regardless of what happens. But I don't even think you complain about this. It's just wild that it's happening. Like, I don't care that the portal's open. It's crazy that someone's already made their decision within a week of going in the portal. Like, that screams prior conversations were had. I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but it just feels to me like maybe some prior conversations were had ahead of time.
Final couple of questions we've got for Michael Swain from Fog.net. It's our Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Michael joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Make sure you go check out all of his great coverage of the Kansas Jayhawks over at Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. I ask about the portal, and I know we're not to the offseason yet, and hopefully we're another 3+ weeks away from the start of the offseason for KU. But I do wonder, Michael, and I know you guys have a thread going over at Fog.net right now of offseason and transfer talk and all of that. How much do you think KU is going to rely on the portal going into next year? Because you've got to be good and maybe selective, but you've got to find good players in it these days. I think everyone sort of accepts that as a reality in college sports and college basketball right now. But do you feel like this team believes that they can be a contender again next year with the core they're planning to bring back? Or do they have to find multiple starting caliber players who are already college basketball veterans going into next year?
Well, I think, there have been comments made, or I think Self may have said it on Hawk Talk, that they want to have 8 or 9 starter caliber players. Like, I'd say, yeah, that's great in theory, but actually executing that is tough. And Self has said that plenty of times in the past. And then what happens when we get to this time of year? He plays 8 guys, and he plays 7 guys. So it's nice in theory. Actually executing that is hard. And so I think KU this offseason, right, they need someone to replace Kevin McCullar first and foremost. That has to be a huge priority, someone who get in and be a 2-guard guy that can score. And really what I think you'll see is KU try and get back to kind of that 2022 model where it's DeJuan Harris, kind of 3 to 4 interchangeable wings and then a big man. And I think the big man, likely will be Hunter Dickinson. Obviously, you can't say anything for certain yet because the decision hasn't been made. But I think right now the projection is that Hunter Dickinson is likely to return. So you're looking at DeJuan and Hunter and probably KJ there too. And then from there, it's about getting Johnny Furphy to come back and then adding a guy that can be a difference maker and make shots from the outside. Say that so many times this offseason as we talk, like KU needs shot makers, guys that can create their own shot, but also knock it down consistently 3. And then it's going to come down to really building out kind of the rotation. So you're looking at, instead of guys playing 35 minutes a game, and Bill Self has lamented that fact basically all season, right? So guys go from playing 35, 36, 37 minutes to maybe 32 minutes. That's kind of been the number he caps, or someone like DeJuan Harris. Well, that creates more opportunity. Then maybe you're able to get, a portal guy, high school guy, whatever, who can come in, add some depth there on the wing, and just get more guys that are interchangeable. And so I think for KU, like, they need at least probably 1 or 2 starter quality guys. And from there, it's going to be about building out the rotation with guys you think could come in and help. It doesn't have to be guys that come in and play 30 minutes, but guys who just come in and help. And I think the evaluation process is going to be so important because, as we've seen, I think over the last 2 off seasons, or 2 of the last 3 off seasons, right, you go to mid-majors and get guards that just can't handle it, right? Joe Yesufu couldn't handle it. Nick Timberlake this season has not handled it. And so I think finding the right players who have that mentality to come in and be able to handle Bill Self's coaching, the Big 12, playing at Kansas, right? These are all really important things that you have to be able to do. And I think why getting guys like Kevin McCullar and Hunter Dickinson, guys that have been around good college basketball programs at the high major level, is really important, at least in my opinion. So I'll be fascinated to see kind of how KU blends that, because obviously there's a lot of good mid-major players out there, but it comes down to your evaluation of those guys. Can they take it at Kansas? And that is not a fact for every single player.
Last thing I've got for you, Michael, you mentioned spring football getting underway in Lawrence in the shadow of the wreckage of what was formerly David Booth Kansas Memorial Stadium. Some of the big headlines real quick you're focusing on for spring practice this year for KU.
Well, Jalen Daniels threw football today, so that I think is pretty important. Look, he's not doing a lot, but I think the fact that he can grip and rip it, as they say, is really important. You know, he's not the fact that he's around right now does not matter. Like, what matters is when we get to the first fall camp practice, can he be full go? And that's what matters, and that's what KU's going to focus on. But that, for me, is a big storyline of this spring. I think generally, right, how does KU handle this? This is going to be a fast spring, guys. 15 practices in about 31, 32 days. It's the fastest spring KU's had under Lance Leipold. So how are they going to be able to get all this teaching time in and really get everybody rested and healthy while also maximizing the practices they get? I think these are some things they're going to have to balance and really try and fit it all in at a good point of time. So I think it's going to be a really interesting spring because there are some question marks, I think, at different positions, like defensive end, obviously linebacker. Who are some guys that can start to show some signs? And then, look, KU's going to lose a lot of guys after this next season, right? A lot, like 25 plus. Who are some of those young players that can start to show some positive signs in practice and make you feel a little bit better about the future of the program in 2025 and 2026 and beyond? So just some things I'm keeping an eye on. And it should be a really fun spring ball in Lawrence.
Make sure you are following all of Michael Swain's coverage of the Kansas Jayhawks over at fog.net and 24/7 Sports. Follow him on Twitter as well, at mswain247. He joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline every Tuesday at this time for Jayhawk Weekly. Michael, we appreciate the time as always. Enjoy the basketball the next few days. Enjoy spring practice, and we'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Awesome. Sounds great. Talk to you guys later.
That's Michael Swain from fog.net for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. We've got 1 hour left of the show, live from Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta at the Prairie Band Casino and Resort. We'll get you our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll make some picks for the first 4 games tonight, and we'll get you ready for that first 4 as well. Plus, a rebranding in minor league baseball that I know Dan absolutely loves. We're going to get to that coming up a little bit later on as well. Don't forget to hit us up on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. And you can find us on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk, and you can tap into the live stream from there. We'll get to a news break. We'll come on back with the 5 o'clock hour right after that on 580 Sports Talk. Final hour of 580 Sports Talk coming your way here on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and of course on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, all here with you live from Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta at the Prairie Band Casino and Resort. We are here until 6 o'clock today, taking you right up to tip-off of the first 4 games tonight. Wagner versus Howard, Colorado State versus Virginia. We'll pick those games coming up a little bit later on in this 5 o'clock hour of the show. We'll also get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines and Kansas's minor league team, the Wind Surge down in Wichita. They've got their new alternate identity for this year, and it is something that a lot of native sons and daughters of Kansas, I'm sure, are going to love, and what one transplant to the state sitting to my left right now, not such a huge fan of. We're going to get to that coming up a little bit later on. You are welcome to be a part of the show. Hit us up on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk, again, is the name of our YouTube channel. Go subscribe while you are over there. You can see everything in the sportsbook right behind us today. And you can also hang out with us in the comment section on YouTube. And, of course, you can dial in on the Top City Metal Supply text line. 785-272-9429 is that text line number. No more wasting money on metal pieces that leave you with unnecessary leftovers, because Top City Metal Supply will cut the exact lengths of aluminum, steel, and stainless steel you need, tailored to your project's specifications. Start optimizing your budget with Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field, back home in the capital city. We've got a bunch of headlines to get to today, so without further ado, let's dive right on into them. And how about some postseason awards for some local men's and women's basketball players? The AP All-American teams came out today. Hunter Dickinson for the KU men. He is a second-team All-American, second time in his now lengthy college career. He has been an All-American. Went for 18 and 10.8 rebounds a game this season, so nearly 18 and 11. An awesome year for Hunter. I know we talked about it last week that some people have been somewhat critical of Dickinson because he has really struggled to shoot the ball as of late. The three-point shot has almost completely gone dry. I understand that. He's still a 7-footer who gave you 18 and 11, first-team All-Conference, second-team All-America. What more are we hoping for from him? Like that's everything you could have wanted out of the guy. He deserves that. Kevin McCullar also an All-America honorable mention this year. That sounds about right. I mean, he missed a ton of time. He was player of the year for the first few weeks of the season, then tapered off a little bit. And again, the injuries obviously hurt him a little bit too, but I think deservedly in honorable mention All-America. We'll get to the women's teams in just a moment because we'll get to Aoka Lee. By the way, your first team All-Americans this year, you're not going to believe this, but Zach Edey, he made first team All-America. I think everybody in America knew that was going to happen. Dalton Connect at Kentucky, what a story. From a transfer from Northern Colorado to first team All-American.
Second team All Big Sky Conference last year. He had no Division I offers out of high school. He's a Colorado case from Longmont. No major Division I offers. Played at a junior college in Little Sterling, Colorado for 2 years. Only school that really was that interested in him was Northern Colorado. He was second team All Big Sky. How good was the All Big Sky first team last year?
Incredible.
Go find
apparently.
those guys.
Yeah, no kidding. Holy cow. He is a first-team All-American, as is R.J. Davis from North Carolina. Jamal Shedd from Houston, Tristan Newton from Connecticut. Not a surprise there. Tristan Newton, the one Big East player to make the first-team All-American team this year. Not the Big East player of the year, though. Kind of a funny quirk right there. Your other second-teamers, along with Hunter Dickinson, Tyler Kolek from Marquette, Mark Sears of Alabama, Kyle Filipowski of Duke, and Deron Holmes II from Dayton. It feels like Deron Holmes has been there for a decade. It feels like he has been there for so long. Third teamers on the men's side, Jaden Ledee from San Diego State, Jonai Broom from Auburn, Caleb Love at Arizona, Baylor Shireman at Creighton, as well as Terrence Shannon from Illinois. And along with Kevin McCullar on the honorable mention team, a couple of others who are notable, Antonio Reeves from Kentucky, Devin Carter, who was the Big East player of the year. He's just an All-America honorable mention. Armando Baycott as well, one of the honorable mentions All-America. I don't feel like there are any snubs. Certainly none of the local players. All felt pretty normal there.
Yeah, that's about right.
As for the women's side of things, Aoka Lee, second team All-American. There's probably a real chance she could have ended up first team had she played every game this season. So that's tough for her. But, I mean, how cool for K-State to get a second team All-American, and she absolutely deserved it. And there's a chance she's going to come back again next season, which is absolutely incredible. Your first team All-Americans, would it surprise you to know that Caitlin Clark is an All-American this year?
No, it would
not whatsoever.
No, I don't think anyone at all would be surprised to learn that, in fact. I am having now a hard time actually pulling this up where my All-American list is. If you guys can help me out, that would be great because it's not loading for me. I have last year's in front of me, which is clearly not what I need. Angel Reese did not make first team this year. She was a second teamer. Undefeated South Carolina did not have a first team All-America pick this year either.
That's pretty wild.
Camila Cardoso was a second team All-America pick this season on the women's side of the ledger.
That is that's fairly remarkable.
I can't find the list.
Yeah, I don't know why the AP is making this so difficult to find, but I think eventually I have pulled this up. I do have it in front of me. So your first team All-America picks on the women's side, Caitlin Clark, Paige Beckers. And I was wrong. Angel Reese actually was first team All-American. My apologies. Juju Watkins from USC. I'm actually not looking at the AP list. I'm looking at No, this is from the Associated Press. I guess I saw a bad list earlier on today. Camila Cardoso from South Carolina was named first team. Cameron Brink as well from Stanford. She is phenomenal. She's a great player.
Really, really good player.
So those are your All-Americans locally this year. Hunter Dickinson, Kevin McCullar, and Aoka Lee.
Couple of local sports headlines for me, too. We will keep this on the local side to start our 580 Sports Talk headlines. First, a K-State football headline. This was expected, but no less disappointing. K-State's home football game against Arizona has been officially scheduled for Friday night, September 13th. It had been flexible as either a Friday or a Saturday kickoff when the Big 12 released its schedule a little bit ago. And today it was made official that K-State will indeed play a home game at Bill Snyder Family Stadium against the Arizona Wildcats, a non-Big 12 game between two Big 12 teams because it was previously scheduled and neither team wanted to get rid of the game. So they're going to play. It will not be a game that counts in the Big 12 standings. And it will be on a Friday night, September 13th. And I know that is disappointing to a lot of people who would prefer that Friday nights stay for high school football. And by a lot of people, I mean the consensus at this table is also that is hugely disappointing.
That sucks.
That is the direction that the scheduling went, but not entirely unexpected. Also, a fun football story. The head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid, is going to throw out the first pitch at opening day at Kauffman Stadium when the Royals play their home opener. Big Red going to throw out the first pitch.
That's going to be fun. That's going to be really cool. I'm sure he's done this many times before, if I had to guess.
I'm trying to remember if he'd ever done it. Obviously, Kelsey did it last year, and it didn't go great, and then he had to redeem himself. Or was it the other way around, that it did go well in Kansas City? Because he did it in Cleveland.
And it went very poorly.
And it went extremely poorly. Yeah, so he redeemed himself. He threw a strike at Kauffman Stadium. A lot of people don't know this, but baseball might be my favorite sport. Might be my best sport. Travis Kelce.
That's very funny. It's going to be cool to see Big Red out there. I will tell you this much, because I was looking just the other day. There are not a whole lot of open seats at the K for opening day.
Weird. So you mean when you spend money on free agents and try to improve your team, it makes people excited and want to buy tickets to watch them?
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Boy, my favorite team wouldn't know anything about that.
Crazy.
No, that is awesome. Spencer, what do you got for today?
First headline, I guess I missed this earlier today. It came out at 9 a.m. from Adam Schefter. From the team that brought you Quarterback. NFL Films, Omaha Productions, 2 p.m. Productions. They're bringing you Receiver this year. Netflix announced its newest sports series that'll follow pass catchers during the 23-24 season. Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Basically, we remember from all the things that came out at the end of or during camp and end of last summer, after that dropped, no quarterback wanted to be followed around. So they had to pivot a little bit here, but now we're getting we're getting receiver.
They simply thought, these quarterbacks, that it would be too much of a distraction because clearly it impacted Patrick Mahomes a lot when cameras were following him around for a whole year. Really, really threw his level of playoff last year.
But we will get to see the Super Bowl in this between Kittle and Samuel.
So I'm way less interested in this than I am the quarterback thing. Part of it is Mahomes was on the quarterback show, and that was part of it. But like
Devontae Adams.
I mean, like, these are objectively very good players, but like George Kittle is one of the corniest humans to live. Like, I don't want more George Kittle hot mic content. I don't need that.
No, I'm really not interested. I get enough George Kittle regularly anyway. I'm good on that.
It's going to be boring watching the Devontae Adams one with the Raiders because...
See, I think the football part of that one's going to be the most interesting.
I guess maybe.
He had a lot of thoughts about Josh McDaniels. Yeah. A lot of them. And not a single one of them was positive. I think that'll be interesting. The parts of his just like life, though, he doesn't do anything but golf and play with his kids. Like he lives at, I mean, that was the same when he was in Green Bay. Like he's a very low key guy. So those parts probably not going to be thrilling. I am curious what kind of access they got with the McDaniels firing. Why did they pick 2 Niners?
I don't know. That's a good question.
No, they probably asked Debo, and then George Kittle's like, hey, me too. Is there a camera? Is there a red light on? Is there a microphone? Hey, I'm George Kittle. Aren't I quirky? Aren't I fun?
You know what it might have been is they might have decided, so they might have gone after Debo and started it with Debo and then realized like Kittle was coming in on all the action. So then they're like,
had to include him.
Let's just include him.
Also, George Kittle, I read something that he really wants it to be, he's going to take the name of the show to his next contract negotiation to say, hey, don't pay me like a tight end. I'm a receiver. It's in the title of the show.
I will say I'm interested in seeing Amon-Ra St. Brown and the access given to the Lions.
Yeah, because they had a good
season.
Team, a good run. He had a good year. I don't know
a lot of personalities.
Don't know a lot about him. So, like, there's I guess, some curiosity there. But
I bet they'll put his psycho dad on TV a bunch. Do you know the story of the St. Browns?
I do not.
I'm sure you will learn it in this show. Their dad's name was just John Brown, but then he thought St. Brown sounded cooler, and he took a ton of steroids and did Mr. Universe contests, and that's why his weirdness then became naming his kids Amon-Ra and Equanimous and Osiris. Yeah, weird family. Yeah, kind of hit or miss group, to be completely honest with you. Yeah. But then again, I mean, people thought Kirk Cousins was going to be lame.
Yeah, and he is, but it's an endearing kind of lame. Like, it's a relatable kind of lame.
A lame that, like, likes to go to Kohl's and mow the lawn or whatever. Like, normal guy lame.
Yes. Like, that was the appeal of it. Like, this is an exceedingly normal person, and he just happens to be really good playing quarterback.
Next headline for me today on today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. Your boy Bob Huggins, Spencer.
Not my boy.
He
I have talked to him on the radio before.
He has some thoughts. Bob Huggins spoke, and generally speaking, this doesn't go so well.
No.
So he was
last time they let him speak on the radio, he torpedoed his reputation.
Yeah, he pretty much ruined his whole career. So he gave an interview to KDKA earlier this week in Pittsburgh. Yeah, and he said this. Quote, well, he was asked, would you take another job? Like, if you got an opportunity to be a head coach again, would you take it? And he said, quote, I would take another job in the right situation. I don't really want to leave West Virginia, but I don't think I have much of a choice. Then when asked if he thought he could ever return to West Virginia, the university, Huggins said, quote, if there's a change in leadership. So clearly some issues between Bob Huggins and the leadership at West Virginia University. I would like to make this very clear while we talk about this. Bob Huggins, the last time we heard from him back in July, blew more than 2.5 times the legal limit while driving, while under the influence of alcohol, with empty beer cans in trash bags all over his car.
I think he then also said yesterday, I don't have the quotes on this, but I did see it on Twitter. He said something about being an amount of days sober, but it's only been less than that since that. Yeah, so...
well, yes, because he can't contradict his daughter's account that she posted on social media, which is, my dad's just really into recycling.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is genuinely insane. Like, that's not even funny. Like, that's so unhinged.
This is from the same source that we got the story from. I'm not an alcoholic. I was a social drinker. I don't drink every day. I haven't touched alcohol in over 300 days. The DUI was 277 days ago.
Yeah, I mean, this is sad. I like Bob. I do.
Yeah, he's been good, a net good for college basketball as a character and as like a winning coach.
And clearly means a lot to his players. I mean, he showed up in lieu of parents for Jesse Edwards and Kerr Kriisa at their senior day at West Virginia. Like, clearly has had a positive impact on people.
Yeah.
This is sad.
Yeah,
this is really sad.
One of their big donors in their NIL founder, Ken Kendrick, he came out and spoke a couple weeks ago.
Kendrick?
Yes, Ken Kendrick.
He's the guy, he owns the Diamondbacks, right?
He might be.
Is that the same Ken Kendrick?
There can't be many.
Yes, it is. He said on West Virginia Metro News, I think he has no place in the lives of young men who deserve quality leadership.
Jeez.
That's, wow, harsh.
And that's Ken Kendrick, the big donor
to
the university.
I mean, he's obviously done in that town, and clearly he understands it too, but I don't know.
He doesn't think he's done.
I'm sure he doesn't, but he's in denial. Again, he blew a 2-1-0. This is not the first time he's had a DUI either. Yeah. Please get help and go away. Like, this is one of those situations where I hope he goes away for his own sake at this point, because it's getting ugly.
Next headline for me in our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Reigning National League Cy Young Award winner Blake Snell has a new team.
Blake Smell.
Late last night, got him. Snell agreed to terms with the San Francisco Giants on a 2-year, $62 million contract. That's $31 million a year average annual value, if you can't do the math in your head. And it has an opt-out after the first season as well. Snell, again, entered the market this offseason as the reigning Cy Young Award winner in the National League, and not his first Cy Young either. This is a rare 31-year-old starting pitcher with 2 Cy Youngs, one in each league, won it back in 2018 with the Tampa Bay Rays, as well as winning it last year with the San Diego Padres. There are reports that he and his agent, baseball super agent Scott Boras, were looking for $290 million in free agency. The Yankees offered 6 years and $150 million. Snell turned that down and now settles for 2 years and $62 million. There are multiple ways to examine this. One is that it continues a troubling trend this offseason of teams spending dramatically less money on the free agent market. How much less? How about $1 billion less? Last offseason, $3.9 billion spent on free agents. This year, it's exactly $1 billion less, 2.9. And most of that went to 2 guys from the same team, as the Dodgers signed Yamamoto, the Japanese pitcher, and Shohei Ohtani to contracts that were worth over $1 billion combined on their own. So, yes, a bit of a troubling trend that baseball teams decided this offseason to spend less money, and that has hurt the contracts of guys like Matt Chapman, who signed with the Giants, and Jorge Soler, who had a great year last year for Miami and signed with the Giants again. I'm starting to sense a trend here about a team that is trying to take advantage of this ongoing collusion. Anyhow, you can certainly look at it that way. You can also look at it and say, well, he had 6 years and 150 and he turned that down. Maybe he should not have believed that he was worth $290 million, because for all of Blake Snell's individual accolades, again, 2 Cy Young Awards, not a lot of people walking this earth with multiple Cy Young Awards. And also 2 ERA titles in his career as well. Led the league in ERA in both of his Cy Young Award-winning seasons. He is also let's call him a polarizing pitcher who is very frequently difficult to watch. Because you know what else he led the National League in last year? Walks. Walked 5 batters per 9 innings. Now, how is he so good? He struck out nearly 12 guys per 9. Obviously, that's pretty impressive. Also only gave up 115 hits in 180 innings. He was outstanding down the stretch for the Padres. He is objectively a good pitcher. Is he a front of the rotation, number 1, no doubt about it, playoff ace starting pitcher? I don't know. A lot of people in baseball would say no. A lot of people in baseball would say he's too often what you call a 5 and fly or a 5 and dive, a guy that only gives you 5 innings because he's thrown 100+ pitches in those 5 innings, because he's walking the ballpark, or he's going 3 and 2 on every hitter.
And I was going to say, there's an inherent other factor that has to come into play every time that you sign Blake Snell. You better have a good bullpen.
Yes, because, again, he might be only giving you 5 innings a start. So there are very good reasons why he didn't get $290 million. And maybe he should have taken that 6 years and $150 million from the Yankees. But the fact that the reigning Cy Young winner could only get a 2-year contract in free agency, that doesn't pass the smell test either. And I don't know how much A relates to B, but I got to imagine it's not unrelated that last night there was a meeting between frustrated Major League Baseball players and the head of the Players Union, Tony Clark. Baseball's players want the deputy executive director of the Players Association, Bruce Meyer, out. And they want him replaced with a younger guy, Harry Marino, who was influential in spearheading unionization efforts of minor league players. Now, Clark has taken no action. He has the ability to hire and fire deputy members of the Players Association. Hasn't taken any action yet, but clearly the players are not pleased with the current state of free agency. And it is also obvious when you look around that the owners have figured out ways to spend less of their own money. And if you tell a rich person, here's a way you can spend less of your own money, they're going to do it 100 times out of 100.
The problem for the Players Union that it is currently facing is that for years and years and years, mostly thanks to Marvin Miller, relatively compared to the NFL specifically, it was always, well, baseball's got this great union. The NFL keeps losing.
It was the most powerful union in sports and one of the most powerful unions like in America.
When's the last time they won something?
That's a great question.
Genuine, like, not to get too far into like Hamilton Nolan territory and just talking about the labor side of things here, but like genuinely, when is the last time the MLB Players Union got a win?
Like they have managed to keep baseball from being a salary cap sport for all these years. They are the only major sport that is not a salary cap sport. Mm-hmm. That's a win, but the luxury tax exists, and now the rich teams, the Yankees, the Red Sox, to name two very prominent ones, have managed to convince their own fans that the luxury tax is the salary cap, and that staying under the luxury tax is a thing that we just got to do because we can't go over the tax. We don't want to pay additional into the revenue sharing, and that's the other thing that happens, revenue sharing. The poor teams, the teams that don't spend any money, they get money just for living, just for existing. You get a payout in the competitive balance tax, just for fielding a team of 9 guys.
Yeah.
So there's no incentive for the teams that don't want to spend money to spend money. There's now incentive for rich teams to spend less money. And the end result is you've got guys who aren't making market value, and you've got a broken free agency system. And that's bad, objectively bad for the sport.
How much, and truly just curious here, how much do you put on the players/agents here? Because I feel like a lot of fans.
Well, it's a fascinating conversation as it pertains to the Boris clients, especially, right? Because they came in shooting for the moon this offseason.
They always do that.
And they always do. But a lot of times they get what they're looking for. That's why Scott Boras has had so many high-profile clients for all these years, right? Like, not just because he's a name, but because he gets it done for his clients. But his big clients this offseason, Blake Snell, turned down $150 million, didn't get what he was looking for, had to settle for this. Matt Chapman is a Boras client. Cody Bellinger, coming off of a great season for the Cubs, had to settle for a 3-year contract.
Which is really only a 1-year deal.
Jordan Montgomery and J.D. Martinez are still on the market. They could help good teams. Jordan Montgomery was a crucial piece of a World Series winning rotation last year. Mm-hmm. You think he can help somebody?
I think the Boras stuff often gets overblown. Not always. Because he's a lot. Like when Cody Bellinger did his press conference to announce he was coming back to the Cubs, there were 3 people on stage. It was it was Jed Hoyer, the Cubs GM. It was Cody Bellinger, and it was Scott Boras. That's very weird. Like that's not normal. I do not think he's like Mr. Altruism or anything.
Right.
But here's the other thing that people sort of forget because it's easy to blame, the agent. If Blake Snell was dying to pitch for the Yankees, like if he was desperate to pitch to the Yankees and Boras said, no, you're going to get more. You're going to get more. Don't take it. You're going to get more. If Blake Snell wanted to, he could say, I'm taking it. Yes. And Scott Boras would have to say, okay. Like he works for the player. Right. And I think that fans and media members too don't always put that all together. But by the same token, there is also the element of you're advising me.
Yes.
And I'm going to listen to your advice because it has worked.
You told me I was worth $290 million. 150 is not 290, so I'm going to say no.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get 62.
Yeah.
And potentially it's 31, and then you try and hit the market again. the opt-out gives him a chance at least to go try and cash out next year if he goes and wins a third Cy Young. But no, it's there's a lot of angles to look at it, but none of them paint the current state of baseball free agency in a particularly flattering light.
No, that'll do it for today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. Coming up on the other side of this break, minor league baseball teams in recent years, they've gone with alternate identities for a handful of games a year, and we've got an unbelievably Kansas one for the one Kansas minor league team in action this coming season. We'll tell you what it is after this on 580 Sports Talk. One NFL headline we did not get to in that last segment. Mike Williams, the former Charger, he's got a new team. He's going to the New York Jets. Those are going to be a wild 5 games when he's healthy.
Yeah, he's going to catch a lot of deep balls from Tyrod Taylor in those games.
Brendan, Dan, and Spencer here with you from Prairie Band Sportsbook at the Prairie Band Casino and Resort in Mayetta, just 20 minutes north of the capital city. Really appreciate the fine folks here at Prairie Band for having us out today. We are just 5 minutes away from tip-off for the first 4. Wagner versus Howard in our first game of the day. Might as well pick that one first right off the rip, since that one's about to tip off here in 5 minutes. Who you got, Wagner or Howard?
I like Howard. Tournament experience. They were in it last year. Obviously lost to Kansas. In the first round up in Des Moines, but Kenny Blakeney's got his team back for a second consecutive year. Is Ving Rhames' son still on the team?
Oh, I hope so. I haven't checked the Howard roster.
That would be Freedom Rhames, by the way.
Yes.
Is Freedom Rhames still on the roster? Looks like he is, or maybe not. I don't know.
I am pulling it up right now, and
Yes, he is on this year's roster. and doesn't look like he played, though.
You know who else is on the roster for Howard?
Who's that?
Do you remember the name Seth Towns?
Yes, from he was a Ivy League Player of the Year like 7 years ago.
He played multiple years at Harvard. He took a year off during COVID. He was at Ohio State for a while. He is now at Howard. He is in his 8th season.
How is this possible?
1 year he just didn't play.
Okay, but
It wasn't
8th
like he just-
season?
There was
That's 2 times eligibility.
there was an injury. There was a hardship year. There was a medical hardship year. There was the COVID year, and then there was last year where he just didn't feel like playing basketball.
How old do you think he is?
Seth Towns, 26.
He's 26 years old.
He's same age as me.
Yeah, he's 26. When did you graduate college?
2020.
Yeah, there you go. And this dude is still like, dog, you're out there with 18-year-olds. What does a 26-year-old have in common with 18-year-olds?
They've also got my guy Shai Odom, who I was really impressed with last year as a freshman. For
Hey, good
Howard.
player.
Yeah, nice player. So I like Howard to beat the Seahawks.
I told Dan the other day, Wagner, I think, is number 1 on my list of least watchable teams in college basketball. We often will go through the KenPom numbers every couple of weeks and just pick out the teams that play no defense and great offense, like the real ball teams. Wagner is the polar opposite. They are in the bottom 20 in both team offense as well as tempo. So they can't score and they don't play fast either. It's just miserable basketball to watch, as awful as possible. And I'm upset they made the tournament, and I also am picking Howard.
I am as well.
We're all on Howard then on that one. Second game of the day, Colorado State and Virginia. I'm on Colorado State here. Virginia is one of the least deserving tournament teams in recent memory. They play hideous basketball. They're not especially talented. They don't have the right resume. I'm out. Give me Colorado. And Colorado State is legitimately good.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good team when I got a chance to see them. They weren't real good away from home. Nobody in the Mountain West was good away from home, which, kind of gives me a little bit of pause. And really the Mountain West has underachieved in the NCAA tournament the last few years, which, again, that also should give me some pause. But I just don't think Virginia is any kind of good. I think they have precisely 2 good basketball players, Dunn and Beekman, and that's it. And they can't score. And I think that Colorado State will be able to score enough on them. It will be a very low-scoring game, is my opinion, in case anyone is interested in that particular angle. The total is like 120 and a half, I believe.
120 and a half.
Yeah, I like the
Filthy.
Yeah, disgusting.
Yeah.
Anti-basketball.
I've got Colorado State as well. I feel like every time I watched, I just would click through the ESPN when Virginia was playing.
Mm-hmm.
They would at one point have had the lead by like 10 points. And then if I clicked back later, they were losing. They were losing, or it was like a 1-point game.
I can't believe this is only 4 years for Reese Beekman. I feel like he's another guy who's been around since the Millard Fillmore administration.
More like Beast Reekman. He stinks. Nah, he's actually a good player. That was uncalled for.
He's averaging double figures for the first time in his career. So those are the first 4 games coming up tonight. Spiro Ditas and Jim Spanarkel on the call.
You know where Spanarkel played his college ball?
I do not.
Duke.
Really?
Yeah. Played for Coach K.
Yeah.
Huh? I did not know that. How long ago? He played for Coach K?
Yeah.
Wow. Was he on one of his first teams?
Yeah.
Or is Jim Spanarkel just a lot younger than I thought he was?
Maybe I lied. Maybe he didn't play. No, he
was pre-Duke. He was drafted in 79.
Well, yeah. So his final year was 79. That might have been Krzyzewski's like first year.
Coach K, his first year at Duke,
like 80.
80. Yeah, missed him by 1 year.
Missed him by a year. Dang.
I did not know that about Jim Spanarkel. I do love saying his name though.
He's just 11 years younger than Coach K.
That's wild. Coach K was young when he took that job.
Super young.
Yeah, that's absolutely wild. So those games are coming up here. You'll be able to watch them at Prairie Band Sportsbook if you want to come up. Had a really good crowd out here today. Got all of our free bets all taken up. So appreciate everyone who has come in. A lot of foot traffic. Going to be a lot of fun tonight watching the first 4 here at Prairie Band. We owe you another timeout, but when we come back, I promised you the new alternate name of the Wichita Wind Surge. It's one that Dan is absolutely going to hate. We'll tell you next on 580 Sports Talk.
We all picked Howard.
Finishing up this edition of 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday afternoon, Brendan, Dan, Spencer, all joining you from Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta. So earlier today, the Wichita Wind Surge, AA affiliate of the Minnesota Twins, the only affiliated baseball program or baseball team, not program. I'm thinking college hoops with the NCAA tournament now underway. The only affiliated team in minor league baseball in the state of Kansas. They announced their alternate identity for a couple of games in the spring this year.
Now, they've
A month away.
already announced.
That's true, just a month away.
They've already had several of these, right?
Sure.
You have your Copa de la Diversión,
Mhm.
which is the fun cup,
Yes.
the Latin-inspired names and logos. They were I believe the Tumba Vacas, the cow tippers.
Yes.
Yes. The logo of the upside-down cow. We've also seen them dress as the Turbo Tubs,
Yes.
which is homage to the Riverfest,
Mhm.
the tub racing in the Arkansas River. So not unfamiliar for minor league teams to have a lot of different alternate identities, but this one is a food item.
It is, and I love this so much. They are the Wichita Chili Buns. They will be wearing a hat that is literally a cinnamon roll in a bowl of chili. They've got their uniforms, the jerseys, are going to have the regular Wind Surge logo on one arm, the chili logo on the other, and it just says Wichita Chili Buns on the middle, and it looks like chili on the uniform, like kind of a red splatter on the uniform.
So neither of us are native Kansans.
I'm not, no,
None of
us.
Yeah, none of us are native Kansans. So the concept of chili and cinnamon rolls, foreign to all of us before we came in our varying ways, our varying routes at varying times in our lives to the Midwest. I like chili. I like cinnamon rolls.
Not together.
I object to the logo being a cinnamon roll sitting in a bowl of chili. If I saw somebody put a cinnamon roll into a bowl of chili, I would call the FBI as fast as I possibly could.
See, now our pal Fulton tweeted earlier today that that's not how you eat it. You're supposed to eat them separately, just at the same time. Like
Right.
you've got one next to the other.
That was what I had imagined when people talk about the chili and cinnamon rolls. Like, okay, yeah, you got a plate for your cinnamon roll and a little cup for your chili, and you eat them that way. That's fine. Like, if that's how you want to experience those flavors, God made all kinds. But a cinnamon roll in a bowl of chili is absolutely psychotic to me. And I guess that's how you have to do the logo, I guess. I don't know.
You could just have them sitting right next to each other.
Right,
I'm
to
sure.
convey that they're both there. But yeah, like, again, this is not me saying that chili and cinnamon rolls are both bad. No, this is merely me saying that a cinnamon roll inside a bowl of chili is an offensive concept to me.
I believe
I don't want any part of that.
we once had a YouTube commenter when I think it was Paul Meyerberg said he would not eat that. Our Big 12 football insider. I believe he said something. Our texter said something to the effect of just another outsider who doesn't know anything about Kansas. And I thought that was very funny. And like, yeah, Paul's from Brooklyn. Like, you're probably correct about that. I love Paul, but yeah, I would eat this. I love it. I love the fact that they did something super local like this.
Yes,
this
like,
is such a Kansas thing.
I give them lots of credit for embracing the fact that they are Kansas's minor league team, and they've done logos and concepts and alternate branding that are very much of a place, and that place being Kansas and Wichita, Kansas, the Turbo Tubs, and in Kansas, very much a chili and cinnamon roll state. They're going to run out of ideas. Like, I don't know where you go from here. I was always of the mind when they were getting a team. I said, slam dunk. You got to call them the Flying Monkeys. Like, that's what they should be. They should be the Flying Monkeys. And nobody took me up on my idea. Like, you want to be Kansas, and you want to do the quirky naming constriction that every minor league team is doing now with, like, it's 2 words.
Everything's 2 words. Yeah.
Like Wind Surge, Yard Goats, Rumble Ponies. All of those. Flying Monkeys was the move, and they didn't listen to me.
Have you been to a game down there yet?
I have yet to go. No, when I lived in Wichita, I went to a lot of. I mean, the stadium's on the old Lawrence Dumont Stadium site, so I went to a lot of games at the old Lawrence Dumont Stadium and enjoyed that very much. But I have not yet been to Riverfront, the new ballpark, and I hope that I can change that at some point.
My wife and I have gone for a game each of the last 2 summers. We just make a day out of it, go down to Wichita, have, the local fair, go do something during the day, and then catch a ball game at night.
TJ's Burger House?
Have not been to TJ. Well, no, I take that back. We have been.
Yes,
we went 2 years ago. Yeah,
you to TJ's
you
Burger
took
House.
me there, and then I took her there.
Yes.
Yeah, that place is good. That place is delicious. No, I don't think so. Oh, wait. No, it's the burger place.
Yes.
I just know it as the burger place down there. It's very, very good. It's an awesome park, though. They do a great job with it.
Yeah.
Concessions are crazy cheap, which is really nice. It's only 2 hours. Like, it's really not that bad of a drive.
Yeah.
And now, it's not. Going to the K is fun. I love going to the K, and Major League Baseball is different. But if you just want like a fun way to cap off a day trip to Wichita, like going to one of the Wind Surge games is a really good way to do it.
And it's a cool location there, right by the river. It's a cool downtown view in the
Mhm.
ballpark. Like, yeah, it's nice. And then you go to the Monarch, get yourself a bourbon flight after the game. Yeah, you're all set.
I feel like minor league baseball is exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
Like just the tourist thing. Like last summer, I was in the capital, West Virginia, broadcasting Legion baseball games for the state tournament, and they have the Charleston minor league baseball team, formerly the Pirates affiliate,
Mhm.
but they're now just in the Atlantic League,
Okay.
and it was such a fun time.
Oh, I bet.
Didn't know, actually knew some of the players because they were former like prospects to the
Okay.
MLB,
Yeah.
but like it was a fun time.
Oh, I bet. Would you eat chili and cinnamon rolls, by the way?
I would not, but we got a text from the 785, cinnamon rolls with chili, the hotter the better.
This is one of those things where I at first was like, no, this is weird. And Jake always said, no, you're wrong. Like, this is good. Trust me.
Like, I get why I understand it. Like the flavor pairing, like I've come to understand why that would be appealing to people. Like, I understand.
I never think of food in that way. Like the thought of, oh, well, this sweet and savory thing. I don't really know what savory means. Like, I don't really like people describe things as savory. I don't really know what that means.
You guys got to refine your palates.
It either tastes good or it doesn't.
Yeah.
Or like when I will visit my wife's family, we'll go up to Chicago and see them, and they make a lot of food at home, and they're all really good cooks, and food's a big part of the family thing. And they'll talk about, oh, I need to have my protein with this, or I've got to have this at this time. Like, if it tastes good, I'll eat it. Like I do not have a lot of refinement there. Like, you put good food in front of me, I'm going to house that immediately. We've got to get to one final break here on 580 Sports Talk. NCAA tournament is indeed underway. We told you we were going to take you right up to the start of the games today. Howard and Wagner. I just looked down. It was 9-6 a moment ago.
Yes, we hit the first media timeout. They are interminably long for the tournament. 9-6, the Seahawks leading Howard.
Neither of these teams should be playing today, by the way.
No.
I would like to one more time, now that we have finally reached the first four, I would like to rehash this take real quick before the commercial. If you win your conference tournament, you have an automatic bid. You did not have to get lucky because the committee was nice to you. You earned your way in. Howard and Wagner should not be forced to do a play-in game. That's ridiculous.
Shout out to most famous Wagner alumnus, Fran Drescher, the nanny.
Really?
Yeah, I just showed that on the screen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Fran Drescher's great.
Yeah.
Little obnoxious with the voice, but Fran Drescher.
The laugh is a bit much, but yeah, great actress.
Another great icon of the 90s. We've got one final break. We'll get back with the final word right after this on 580 Sports Talk. It's been an awesome afternoon here at Prairie Band Sportsbook at Prairie Band Casino and Resort in Mayetta. Big thanks to everybody here for having us out today. We have had a blast. Don't forget about the Parlay Your Way promotion, a qualifying $5 parlay bet, 4 legs, just as to be even money or longer odds will enter you. You can have as many entries as you want into a chance to win an exclusive pair of tickets to Inter Miami versus Sporting Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium. There are plenty of watch party packages available as well for the men's college basketball national tournament here at Prairie Band. You can check out more of that information on their website, prairieband.com. Time for a final word, though, as we wrap things up. Spencer, you are first today. What is your final word?
It is officially the best time of year.
That's right.
And I am so excited for it. I wish it could be forever. Like every 3 months, I wish we could get this. I'm pretty excited for it.
My final words that Howard needs to get together. Down 14-10 here with about 8 minutes gone in the first half. I'm going to need the Bison to pull it together, or I'm going to be 0-1 to start my bracket picks.
Thankfully, those at least the first 4 don't count.
Correct. That does help.
Great time, by the way, to remind you that if you want to compete against myself and Dan and Spencer, head to our website, 580wibw.com. Go take part in the Lewis Toyota Bracket Mania Challenge. If you get the first 60 games, once the 64-team field begins, you get the first 60 right, you win a car from Lewis Toyota. If you get a whole bracket perfect, you win $1 million from Alpha Media. So go check that out at our website, 580wibw.com, right in the center of the home page. And with that, my final word for today, Spencer's right. It is the greatest time of the year. I am always of the belief, I know some people disagree, these are tournament games. These should count.
Yes.
And every coach who wins one of these should get an NCAA tournament win on their resume. It is just foolish that teams that won their conference tournament are in a position where they have to play their way in to getting their brains beaten in by a number 1 seed to start things off. Make all the Virginias of the world play these play-in games, and they will later today. We will be back in studio tomorrow from 2 until 5:30. Again, a big thanks to Prairie Band for having us out today. For Spencer Dupuis, for Dan Lucero, I am Brendan Brzezinski. A big thanks to Steve Olinghouse back in the studio as well. We'll talk to you again tomorrow back here on 580 Sports Talk.